We live?
I think we're live. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? How's your week been, Courtney?
A lot slower than last week. Last week was pretty crazy at the hearings.
What'd you have going on last week?
The hearings. I was in the Indiana.
I know. So, in retrospect, it's been a couple days. Where have you landed in terms of, I guess, first, are you glad you went?
I'm so glad I went. I mean, even with being there for every second of it, like there's just things I didn't even absorb at the time. So I'm coming back through all of my own notes, and you and I have been talking all this week. We still have a lot of questions. We have some really robust timelines made. Angela has made a fabulous one that's just kind of like the DOC timeline. We have timelines everywhere. And there's some gaps in them. There's some questions. And then we've noticed going through, y'all know me. I like to go to things in retrospect. So going back through old filings, old transcripts, everybody's contradicting themselves. Things are not consistent all the way through. Really important things are not consistent all the way through.
Like
so, what? Just like what was going down whenever he quote unquote snapped or flipped a switch or went from being okay on March 24th when his attorneys visited him and then being placed back on suicide watch on April 1st and calling his wife just incoherently, confessing, and just and then his whole psychotic breakdown through the entire months of April, May, and June. There's very, very conflicting stories about what led to that and what went with that. So
yeah. Well, and we also didn't realize that his psychosis or deterioration went into like June, July. We really had no conceptualization of what his time in there has looked like, aside from what we've seen. The June hearing last year where he looked emaciated, he looked terminally ill, and that got
we know why now.
We know why now. And it's just insane to realize that was not even, the worst. I'm sure we'll get into it here. But one of the things, hey, Tech Jack. Hey. One of the things that Courtney and DB and me and Sleuthy and All Eyes and just all the people have been doing is trying to find like an accurate timeline. And it's been nearly impossible because there are so many fucking contradictions. And yeah, so that's one thing we're working on. And we wanted tonight to kind of we want to get some eyes on some things that maybe have either been overlooked, forgotten about, because the Delphi news cycle, the Delphi machine is like, it feels like there's always something new topping the last thing. So let's see. Hold up.
Can you do that? I know the one that isn't labeled, like the one.
Oh, okay. I see what we're doing.
Sorry. Yeah, it's the one I didn't label. Just it's in the drive. Or are you just sharing your screen? That's probably a lot easier, huh?
Let's see. I told you I'm on a new
pooter.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Bear with me while I do this. This is why we can't advise things.
There we go.
Oh God.
So this is one of the first ones that really caught my eye. How do I make this bigger? Oh, wait, there we go. There we go. Oh, no, you can go back how it was. I can see it. Go back. I had to make my thing bigger. There we go.
Wait, I want to say hi. I didn't say hi to anybody. Can we say hi to some people before we're just
I hadn't looked at the chat yet. Who's here?
I know. I have it up.
Oh, we got a tight deadline. We got a sponsorships. We got stuff lined up. We got to keep it moving. So keep the intro tight.
Okay.
I like your hat. Is that a hat or hair?
Oh shit! This is my QAnon shaman outfit. I gotta switch that up. My bad.
Is that your insurrection get up?
Oh, something like that. It was a little group I was with, a little outfit. I did some time in for a little bit, sometime or somewhere close to Washington D.C.
Oh my God! Use the Viking. I didn't even notice.
We're doing an insurrection.
Hey, Big Fish. El
Big
Pizote.
fish.
We've got El Pizote. We've got Kira. We've got Phoenix. We've got Hoosier. Hi, Hoosier. We've got Christine DC. Good to see everyone. I learn a lot of acronyms on the YouTube lives, by the way. I learn a lot on hanging out in the live chat on YouTube. Anyway.
Some of them.
Neither here nor there. Hi, Rebecca Ann. Hi, Rose. Hi, Goblin Mom. It's like that name. Mandy. Royal Wee. Michael's here. Hi, Michael. You will enjoy this, I think. Momentarily, especially if the show doesn't get on the road. I'm so sorry. It's always me. If ever we're late, it's me. We can just assume. Kate is here. Tech Death is here. Cal is here. Linda K is here. Jenny. Bonkers Babe. Tammy, the fucking gangster. Tammy has been doing more work this week on Facebook, just keeping the facts.
Oh God, Tammy's out there in the trenches by herself. I don't engage in the Facebook groups. I look at them every now and then. I'm in a bunch of them. Occasionally I peek at them, not too often. Man, every time I do, Tammy's in there just
she's
for her life.
Yeah, and she's clarifying. She's like, no, motherfucker. Actually, here's what happened, and she doesn't back
fighting
down.
for her life. Yeah.
Yes.
Respect. I can't. Stronger than me.
Me too. I avoid Facebook. I just avoid Facebook. But anyway, love that. Love you, Tammy. Luke is here. Hi, Luke. And Scott. Always Scott. One of our biggest supporters. Scott is like, this is going to be weird. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Scott is like our YouTube dad. He's just like an ever-present, supportive, awesome voice. And I feel like Scott has been around since like the very early R&M days where I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And he's just the best. I have to say there's like a lot of really nice people on YouTube for all of the really awful people that are on YouTube. Anyway, so thank you, everyone. Okay, you were saying, Yellow.
Oh,
I totally.
I don't look at the chat constantly.
I have it. All right, let's get into it.
All right, this one here. So one of the big questions I had was, when did Rick get his legal paperwork? Because this has been a big point of contention. It's been a big point of the rumor mills. I mean, how many times have we heard and seen that he got this big legal document dump and something in it was terrible. He freaked out. He had a meltdown. He had to start confessing. He started eating the paperwork. According to Nick's filings, like this was the pivotal moment where he snapped. So it's like, oh, obviously something in these documents must have set him off, right? So on April 5th, 2023, the defense files their emergency safekeeping modification. They say that they were there on March 24th. He was optimistic. He was in good spirits. He was communicative, all that stuff. And it's like, when did he actually get this paperwork that was supposed to be so optimistic? Like almost 1,000 pages. So the attorneys delivered nearly 1,000 pages of police reports to Mr. Allen on the 24th. They wanted his cooperation to look through it, see if he could comment on any of it. As of Monday, April 3rd, the day he called his wife and mom apparently to confess, This information still has yet to be provided to him.
So that's a
Nick-
span of how much time? That's like at least 2 weeks, right?
10 days. And now we did learn at the hearings that inmates never get their paperwork immediately. Like, they aren't just delivered. They actually make copies of everything in case the paper is synthetic marijuana, I think.
Who's
said.
they? Yellow.
DOC.
Yeah.
I guess the proper answer is it probably should be somebody in like their central office, or
Like a taint team almost.
like an admin,
yeah.
admin office should be doing it or something.
Right.
There's no telling who all looked at it before or after those copies were made. The attorneys allege, as of this filing on April 5th, he still didn't have it. Nick swoops in with his nuh-uh filing on April 20th, which actually this little screenshot right here is not from that. This little snippet right here is actually from, Nick had a barrage of stuff he filed on April 20th. So it was his, or no, I guess on the 14th, he had the objection to the safekeeping modification. And on the 20th, he had this big barrage of subpoena dookie teekums. Yeah. Where he was trying to get mental health records. He was trying to get video, audio recordings, written documents.
Employment. He tried to get his employment.
Yeah, like anything and everything Westville has, he was trying to get it. So this is actually from one of those subpoenas.
Right.
And he claims Rick was wetting down paperwork he had gotten from his attorneys. Eating it. He was refusing to eat, refusing to sleep. He was going days without sleep. Then he made the call to his wife on the 3rd, needing to confess and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then, of course, goes on to say that there was an emergency hearing on the 14th. It was decided he didn't need medication and he didn't need to move facilities, even though that's wildly different from what Wallace said. And he started to eat again and sleep again, and he's returning to how things were before making the admissions on April 3rd. So this paints a very clear picture that something about this paperwork sent him into a spiral. He's wetting it down. He's eating it. He's losing his mind. He's confessing. And then he had a meltdown because he confessed. And then he started going back to normal. This is all bullshit. Every single word in that paragraph right there, just absolute lies.
Well, and so we were looking at a Reddit thread earlier from around, probably, I don't know, over a year ago. So probably around this time last year. And it was on a subreddit that I can no longer access. But basically they were talking about how, it all makes sense, right? He's throwing a fit because of what his legal paperwork said. And he's so angry about what he learned.
This optimistic stuff that was dropped off.
Yeah, right. But the assumption, and I don't know, actually, in a little bit, I'm going to check and see when that was posted. It would be interesting if it were posted after that document dump that Gull did, where she literally had someone sideways scan all of the motions that were supposed to be public that had been sealed, or not sealed, but like excluded from public access. And
this was one of them. The second screenshot there, that was one. Okay. Yeah, that was one that came in the June, the subpoenas, because he didn't hear anything about incriminating statements and confessions until that June hearing. So
right. DB, if you want to pull that up, you can. It might be.
Let me finish going through this real quick.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, then we can pull that up. So then we learned on June 15th, when they had the safekeeping hearing, 2023, when the warden got on the stand for the first time and said things for the first time. He said, or Rosie asked directly, which I'm glad I found this in this transcript that Teresa got, because this is a question we've been asking. Why did he flip? What changed between the 24th and the 1st when he was put back on suit? Like, what flipped? And Rosie asked this exact question. Do you know what, for lack of a better term, do you know what flipped the switch or caused the switch to be flipped?
Right.
The warden says, well, I know we went from suicide companion to guards being stationed, I think a day after he received his legal work.
Interesting.
It is interesting because at the hearings last week, we actually learned the exact date that happened when the guards replaced the suicide companions. And that was
When?
April 23rd, which means if you backtrack all of this, he got his paperwork on the 22nd.
So
Way after Nick made this filing, almost a month after his attorneys dropped it off for him.
So he had not yet even seen his discovery or legal paperwork when the prosecutor is already claiming in public filings
Eating it and having a meltdown because of it.
he's wetting it and eating it. And actually, did we find? I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you finish.
Oh no, that's it. That's all I got on there. So we established when he got his paperwork, and he could not have been eating it on the 20th.
Well, certainly not his legal paperwork, right?
Yeah.
Because he didn't have it. And so I wonder, there's this like theme of the prosecutor in this case, and it started as early as the first public hearing when he kind of stood on his soapbox and proclaimed that we don't believe that Rick Allen or that this defendant is the only person involved, right, in this murder. I don't remember exactly how he said it. I know you found it earlier. Which is
we don't believe he's the only actor.
The only actor, right? Which was interesting because everyone was like, "What?" Even Rosie and Baldwin were like, "Well, that's news to us. There's nothing in the PCA that would suggest that." But that was kind of his first press release via hearing, is what I'll call it, where he makes these public assertions that he knows will seep out into the new, they're usually salacious, they're usually surprising, and they are almost always, without fail, what the news and the public fixate on. So this safekeeping hearing that happened in June of last year, there were like a million pretty notable things that were talked about that occurred, but all anybody heard about was Rick Allen made confessions. And I'm probably being unfair because we know Rosie first mentioned that, but McClelland has a tendency to make these very kind of inflammatory claims. I don't know if they're lies because we couldn't find where Nick said that he was eating his legal paperwork, right? He just said paperwork from his attorneys.
From his attorneys.
Okay, so that's the lie. Then yeah, never mind. That's a fucking lie. But he makes these proclamations.
It's also a lie. It's also a lie that he started to eat and sleep again, and his behavior started returning back to what it was prior to making his April 3rd admissions. Like, he just continued to tank.
To get worse.
He did start involuntary medications. That's a lie.
Yeah.
I don't know if Nick is getting bad info, if somebody's just telling him this as
could be
the person who makes the filings and says the words.
Right.
But yeah, like there's like 5 major untrue things in that paragraph right there.
Right. And it's beneficial to him because as we see, and we'll see in this, Reddit post right after, so the prosecutor will say something inflammatory that's not technically true, such as Rick's eating paper from his attorneys. And that one little statement, and I don't know how long the subpoena dookie teekums were. How do you actually say it? Deuces teekum, whatever.
Oh, I know.
Doesn't matter. He never outright says he's eating discovery, but he says paper from his lawyers, and then for months, for a year, all we've heard is, oh, he lost his shit because he got the discovery. He saw all the evidence against him.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was it.
He spiraled. He threw a fit and he spiraled. And that has kind of been the prevailing, at least like in certain online circles. And I don't know if the news is even really reporting in detail on this anymore or at all at the time, but certainly online, the narrative is he saw the evidence against him and he unraveled. He just totally spiraled into this, I think the poster says he threw a fit. We didn't know
There's
that
no
that
evidence.
was
There's no evidence against him. Like there's nothing
no,
that this man was shown that's not in the world's
no, because now we know after the hearing,
ridiculousest probable cause affidavit.
it is the most ridiculousest.
The goal was the incriminating statements.
Correct.
That's the case now.
Yep. Yeah. So, and we'll get into, I think, a little bit about like just how horrifying it is that is their only evidence, thus, as it stands today, pretty much, especially when we look back and consider that they've been trying to get their client, Rick, out of DOC since February 2023.
We're called liars.
They were, yeah. They definitely
were called liars about what they claimed was going on with him and what his behavior was like and the breakdown that he was having and the conditions he was in. Yeah. They not only were called liars after the safekeeping hearing where somebody blocked their only witness from coming to testify.
Who did block their only witness?
Not only were they called liars, it was actually one of the reasons used in the Supreme Court original action for why the judge lost faith in them to be honest and good, provide a good, fair defense for him, like their competency.
Yeah, they don't tell the truth.
Like that's the moment when she started having doubts about their competency.
Meaning after the
safekeeping hearing, when she realized they lied about everything they claimed.
Well, yeah,
and I think the judge had a come to Jesus moment at this last hearing last week when she heard firsthand testimonies about what was going on with him inside those walls.
Yeah.
Did you say a come to Jesus moment?
Hey, Che.
Yeah.
I heard those come to Jesus moments can be quite profound in Indiana.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know how profound. Well, just that you find God and you can falsely confess immediately.
Well, you got to get right with God.
I don't know.
You gotta get right. Sometimes people who are capable of butchering two children they've never met in the woods in broad daylight have a lot of conscience in their heart, and they need to get right with God about it, because those things usually go hand in hand, right?
They say a lot of men find God in trenches and in the hole in Westville prison.
Probably true. It's probably true.
Especially after reading Man's Search for Meaning, or whatever the fuck she gave him. What book did she give him?
It was something like that. It was a book about the Holocaust.
Interesting.
And one man's survival of an internment camp. So it's an interesting, maybe she wants to be a writer one day. It was like an interesting little foreshadowing of what was to come, I guess.
That's fucking weird. I'm sorry. That's very
inappropriate. He is in a cell for suicidal intent. And actually not only do not all 55 have cams, only 4 cells in that entire prison are pre-wired and set up with CCTV that runs all the time. And that's special to Westville. I don't think all DOCs have that. That was something special they did. Of course. So his cell was A107 from the time he got there until the time he left. The suicide watch status just had to do with restrictions and clothing and things he could and couldn't have within that same cell he was always in. It means you lost your blanket. Yeah. It means you lost your clothes. It means you couldn't have silverware or all kinds of stuff.
Interesting. Angela, sorry. The date when a
Go
girl.
ahead.
I do remember that was October 11th, right? Yellow.
Can you read the question for all the,
Yes,
the mamas out there making dinner right now?
I totally can, DB. Yes, for the mamas. This is from Sleuthy Goosey. She says, Angela, you'll know what I'm talking about, hopefully, but do you remember the date when a girl we know met with Detective Holman, and Holman had an Odin or a ritual murder book on his desk? And I do remember that.
The author of that book was the one, Sleuthy, that was listed in that one filing, slated to be Nick's Odinist expert. It's that same guy. He was the author of that book. So his specialty is like white supremacy gangs and things of that nature in prisons. He's like a former warden or corrections officer or something.
The book was called Odinism in Prison. That's such a fucking Holman book name. No, I don't know. But Sleuthy said it. But like Holman probably only really reads books that are really straightforward, you know. Odinism in prison. What is it and where is it at?
What was that guy's name? How do I?
I thought Brad Holder was going to be their Odinism expert at one point, right?
He was going to do what?
They said that he was like they wanted to keep him around because he knew a lot about Odinism.
So okay, so this is another unanswered question I haven't dug into yet, but yeah, there's like this random interview with Brad, I guess in Logansport about a year after the murders or so, and they're like, "Oh, it wasn't about the Delphi case." I'm like, what the fuck was it about?
Is the other ritualistic pagan double murder?
Yeah, they're like, they kind of acted like we just wanted to like learn from him. Like we just wanted to like bounce some things off. Like, I'm like, just say he was a CI and get it over with. Like we just wanted to learn, you know, a little bit more about Odinism and all. I'm like, out of everybody, I mean, his own ex-wife kind of framed him like a real poser. She was like, it was my religion that Brad was interested in. Like she didn't even really give him a lot of credit, talked about how he was conflicted with Christianity and all this other stuff. It seems like everybody who knew him considered him quite a bit of a poser.
That's that's a bummer to be a poser.
But yeah, so they brought him in to like learn about Odinism from him. And I'm like, when, how, why? I have a lot of questions.
So maybe that's why Holman was talking to him or had him waiting in the lobby for him. He wanted to run Click's work by him, maybe as like an expert, like, you know, this is what Click told us. You know, give us your thoughts on the Odinism angle here. I'm sure.
Can you imagine? Where's Angela? Where'd she go?
She gone.
Boone puked. Be right back. God. So what? Just leave it there and let it get crunchy and pick it up later. Makes it easier.
Okay, KO says bullshit. Holman is a CI, or Holder is a CI. Why else would he share Click's findings if he did? I found a little clip SS of BH saying he was interviewed both times before and after the sketch for about an hour and a half each time. We have post-punk mama here, not only a post-punk mama, but also a dinner-making mama.
Nice.
I got y'all's back.
Nice.
Oh, question from our statement here from Big Fish. Westville thinks it was him who made him Asatru. Is that true?
I had always heard his dad was a preacher or something, but Amber Holder was actually there testifying at the hearings last week, and he's actually like a sixth generation. He comes from like 6 generations of Christian preachers.
Wait, who? Diener?
Holder.
Man, that don't make sense.
I know.
He strayed from the Lord.
Yeah, and that's why, according to Patrick Westfall, they're falling out, or why he kind of kicked him out of the club, was because he found out he was going to church, and he's like, I don't play that.
How are you gonna get kicked out of the club if you can't even get in?
No.
Bean, that's exactly the joke I was trying to make, but I couldn't say it out loud. Like my mouth wouldn't let me. That's not true. Sorry, guys. Really scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
Also not true.
No, like that's true, you know?
So sorry.
That's not
I
true.
heard what you said, Courtney, about letting it get crunchy. I should do that next time. I'm back. So sorry.
I have a lot of cats. Like, throw up is like...
It ain't no thing.
I'll get that later.
Yeah. Okay. You were talking about Brad Holder's dad.
Pull up this Reddit post you keep trying to talk about. You had it up a second ago, I think.
Yeah, it made me really mad.
Do you kick DB off every time you come in? I don't understand. Like,
I think he kicks himself off. Because
Why?
he can add himself and subtract himself.
Is he like hiding from someone in a closet and has to like...
see, he's autonomous. He can.
I'm not on YouTube.
I've never subtracted, only multiplied. Dude, I come on here and she fucking leaves, dude. Good God. Maybe I'm just I'm a burner.
Y'all get your shit together.
I don't. Yeah. So the Reddit post.
Yeah.
You got it?
What's it about?
Oh, it's
Tell
awesome.
me a story.
I'm pulling it up.
You're gonna love it, Courtney. You're gonna really love it. It's awesome.
I probably hated it the first time I read it.
It's definitely not gonna like send you into a rage spiral or anything like that. At all. Definitely not. It's actually from our favorite subreddit, the Delphi trial,
where legal experts are not welcome.
Legal experts, differing opinions, people with usernames that are too hilarious. Yeah, they run a tight ship. Pat Westfall said,
they like to talk about those. They like to talk about the people they banned, though. I never even participated in there. I just get an alert one day that I'm banned. I'm like, for what?
I tried once.
Like, I never even commented or posted in there. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I tried one time. I feel like I was relatively civil in my discourse. I mean, it's always a toss-up, but I do feel I was quite civil. What's eating Ricky? I mean, we could read it, or we could have the much, highly in demand voice talents of DB read it. It's up to you.
Please.
What's eating Ricky? Still trying to make any sense of the documents? The question that jumps out to me is what I can't read this guy's writing very well.
God, it's bizarre.
It's writing. It's typed.
Well, people write type things. Books are written.
Yeah, his prose is concerning.
It reads like it's a really bad Goosebumps novel,
It does read like a really
bad Hey, how long is this, by the way?
It's not long. It's long-ish.
Okay.
It's medium long.
Okay, get in there.
It's really just the first part and the last part, right? Okay. gonna be quiet. Go ahead, DB.
That one copy of the discovery material shall be made and provided for the defendant. That no additional copies of the discovery material shall be made by the defendant, defendant's counsel, investigator, expert, or any other representative or agent of the defendant for any reason. Wait a second. Didn't they make copies?
Interesting. You mean in DOC? Yeah. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Sure did.
Yeah. That discovery material shall not be used for any purpose other than to prepare for the defense in the above referenced cause number. Wait, so if inmates use it to elicit a deal for getting information, never mind.
Like a good
So-
time deal? I mean, a good behavior, shorter
Sorry,
time
I'm just
deal?
here to read. That the discovery material shall not be publicly exhibited, displayed, shown, or used for educational, research, or demonstrative purposes, or used in any other manner except for the judicial proceedings in the above referenced action. That the discovery material may be viewed only by parties, counsel, and counsel's investigators and experts. That one's too long, dude.
And the DOC.
And the DOC or anyone in the control room. That none of the discovery material shall be divulged for any person not authorized to view the discovery material and includes a witness, family members, relatives, or friends of the defendant.
Family members of the defendant, not family members of the inmates.
That's true.
What if they give nudes though? Like, what if
What if your
just send
grandma sees
nudes
them?
and they share it then?
Say more, Courtney.
No, just.
That
Was
upon
that
the
out
final
loud? Was that out loud? Okay, go on.
that upon the final disposition of the case, the discovery material shall be referred to in paragraph 1, and any and all transcripts shall be returned to the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office or maintained by the defense counsel pursuant to the terms herein.
Why do you think they made a point to include? Well, I have a couple
Yeah,
questions.
so he retyped out the filing or copy pasted. What's his point? Like, what's he getting into here?
You're about to find out, I think.
Okay, so he wasn't happy once he got a look at what they have on him. They fucking said it was like 1,000 pages of police reports. Like, whatever they showed him upset law enforcement way more than it did him, because he didn't even see it until after he should have been in the loony bin.
Do you want to finish reading it really quick, though?
Me?
Just that part.
Me?
Hello?
Hello. Just the part where he talks about like this one little paragraph, DB. Do you want to read it? I can fucking read it if no one wants to read it. But
there's a lot of little paragraphs, so you just go ahead.
The one that says, I kind of always suspected he wouldn't be happy once he got a look at what they have on him. I still think there's a whole mountain of evidence we haven't seen that Ricky has seen. I hate that they call him Ricky. It's so fucking weird. Which made him say, fuck it. And he confessed or incriminated himself to everyone within earshot. Okay, and then he goes on, and I don't want to read the rest. But that part, so how do you interpret that?
Really low IQ, stupid, making assumptions, confirmation bias.
Yeah. Well, and it's like a very simple visual, like example fucking representation of this dynamic that plays out, which is Nick McClelland. For 6 years, it was the police. Now that he's arrested, it's the prosecutor. Nick McClelland gets in front of the public, the judge, in a hearing, and he uses public hearings and public filings where the burden to provide, more so in a hearing, but the burden to actually back up anything that he's saying is remarkably low, i.e. there's really not consequence for, thank you, Travis. Yeah, we've been commandeering and re-editing. We're pulling a Taylor Swift and re-editing a lot of our old videos. So if I get copyright strike, we're going to federal court. I'm excited about it.
And he's also always truthful because
who? Nick? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, like it's just the belief. Like if I think Rick is guilty, then every single thing the prosecutor says is the truth.
Right.
the defense lied because this is what Nick said. I'm like, no, now you don't know who's lying.
Yeah,
Be
the picture of
correct
honesty.
answer. Now what you should be thinking is somebody's lying and I don't know who it is. Like in my experience, whenever we start like combing back through things in retrospect, the only person I can find that's blatantly lying or putting things in their filings that are absolutely false is the prosecutor.
Yeah.
And maybe it's, and I'll give it like devil's advocate. Maybe it's not even his fault. Like maybe he's been given incorrect info. Like I don't know.
Maybe. DB, why'd you highlight that part?
I just think it's interesting in saying that he sat in his wheelchair, the GSK, because he wasn't in prison.
Oh, damn, you're right.
And he turned it on, and he turned it on for public appearances.
Yeah. You guys ever seen the videos of him in his jail cell?
Doing fucking calisthenics.
Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, look at him. He acts like a decrepit old man, but he's working on his jail cell." And it's literally just him like flailing his arms and shit.
Yeah, he's like I think he did like maybe a box jump like this high, like yeah. Anyway.
We know you can freaking do a box jump higher than that. You don't have to laugh at the man.
I can. I can do one at the men's height. But did y'all know that one of Golden State Killer's victims that escaped him, like one of her most telling descriptions of him was his impossibly tiny wiener? Did y'all know that?
Multiple victims, or at least
they're like this dude, nothing between his legs. Nothing. It's just like it's like a tater. What do you call it?
I don't know.
A little tater tot.
Thank you.
A little tater tot.
A tater tot. It's like a tater tot. Yeah. I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this post, but I felt like it was a really good example of how important transparency is and how beneficial the lack of transparency has been for the state, who already has every benefit at their disposal. But all the prosecutor has to do is put something in a filing or have an outburst in a hearing without any evidence to support it. And for months and months now, we're hearing about it. And it's obviously taken as fact because, well, he's a prosecutor. Why would he lie? We now know.
I still see people cracking jokes about the eating the paperwork thing.
It's disgusting. To
this day, I still see jokes about it. It's like,
that's awesome.
I mean, according to testimony from the warden and the psychologist and everybody else, he absolutely didn't have any paperwork whenever Nick claims he was eating paperwork from his attorneys. So,
right. Yeah,
leave it to Travis to actually make Nick sound cool.
I missed it.
Well, just the last transcript reading.
Oh, yeah. I know. I want Travis to be the only person to read for Nick McClellan, like, moving forward, ever. I will accept nothing else.
Was he the one that was so extra on Teresa that time? Oh yeah. That was great.
Okay. I'm gonna butcher it, but yeah, he was great.
No, he was the professor from the Waterboy.
Yes, he was. He was great.
Good stuff.
I thought he was more Foghorn Leghorn.
Same thing.
I don't get that reference.
What?
I'm good.
Get Foghorn Leghorn.
Okay, let's read some of these comments here. Okay, actually, I'm gonna end with this. The good news is Ricky Allen's not crazy. He's just been playing the part of a faithful little buddy too. That too shall pass. Somebody's been awfully quiet.
Who is he talking about, by the way? Who's been awfully quiet?
Can somebody give me a... Yeah, Luke's here. He knows everything. So, Luke, can you tell me if this is the proper way to say somebody?
Somebody.
Is it like a play that he's like trying to make it sound like hit somebody's buddy that is like incriminated in this whole thing?
No, I just
there's
like,
this-
how is he doing? Like, has anybody checked on him since we learned that absolutely nothing about the Klein or Anthony Schott's investigation led to
Panned out.
Alan's arrest? And even
Mm.
though they tried their hardest to find a connection after they arrested Alan,
He's probably certain that it still is
one
connected.
doesn't exist. And Vito said the fact is, Keegan and his dad's phones were both active and being used at their house all day.
Yeah, and KO asked
Which
a good
I'm going to
question.
go out on a limb and assume they knew a really fucking long time ago, but continued to investigate them for a year and pump $1 million into the clam jam. Yet Brad Holder's work records are the mic drop moment of why they didn't need to look into anything more about him.
Well,
His
yeah,
work
he was at
records
work.
that don't account for the time they claim the murders happened, which is also bullshit. But regardless, his work records that don't provide an alibi for the time the girls were killed, according to them. But because they had those, that's why they didn't need to pursue it any further. So I digress.
It's okay. And the reason, I mean, I know I don't want to give like this poster, this page, or these comments too much airtime, but it is, I do think it's important, because this is the only information really that or at least for a long time, the only information that was getting out were things that were said, you know, in hearings or in motions. And we just had the first evidentiary hearings in this case in a year and a half. That's insane. Like, think about, like, okay, Brian Kohberger. How many times have we seen Brian Kohberger just in the past 6 months and his attorney in front of a judge and with the state, and they're having pretrial hearings? Like, it's just what you do. This was the first fucking one in a year and a half, and so much information came out, and it was probably like a blip of what should and will come out.
Yeah.
But that only benefits one person. Like, the transparency, it drives me crazy. And then I'm going to stop, and then we should pull up that timeline, because otherwise I'll just go. But it drives me crazy. I don't understand the group that are like all gung-ho about, yeah, no cameras. You tell them, Judge Gall. Like, and then they usually blame us. But they blame the cranks, and they blame the leak, and they blame all kinds of things as if any of that has anything to fucking do with anything. But I don't understand, like, this it's lame as fuck. Why, as a citizen, as a member of the public, would you be simping for the police and a judge who are trying to hold a trial in the fucking dark? Like, what is that? I don't understand.
That's why I went there last week. Went there by myself, got my airfare, my hotel. I was like, I've invested so much, like, time, effort, heartache into, you know, caring about this case and
Right.
being intrigued and heartbroken and angry about it.
Yeah.
You know, and like, if I'm not there, if I don't hear it for myself, like, can I trust anything I hear? Or am I just going to hear snippets of what somebody else chose to say?
Right.
I feel like I tried to do a really good job in just writing down everything. I didn't, and I just screenshotted it on my 30-minute break and sent it all to you. I didn't edit out anything or be like, oh, I'm not going to send her that one. I don't want anybody to know that. I mean, it was very, very raw, you know, and I feel like my crank porting was very, this is what happened.
Your what?
My crank porting.
Your crank porting was fabulous. And the only time you ever included anything even remotely resembling an opinion was very clearly annotated as such in your little parentheses in your voice. But no, it was like you were doing like a concurrent. You were basically transcribing concurrently. You did a great job. I don't know how you did it for 3 days straight, but I'm glad you did, because I've seen your notes have been used on pretty much every single. I don't know that the actual like mainstream media will ever properly credit anybody that they use, but at least on all of the YouTube channels, even like the larger ones, they're all using Yellow Jackets corn dog court notes. It's awesome.
Oh, I heard Michelle After Dark used it. I was really excited.
She did.
About that.
And then that lawyer Lee, what's her name? A couple other people have used them, and it's awesome because there's been just a vacuum. There's been an information vacuum, and there still is, but at least there's people that care, that want to kind of fill that in. Not to toot your horn, but I'm gonna toot it. I'm gonna toot your horn.
Toot toot.
Okay, moving on.
If you want to pull it before you get into your timeline, if you just want to pull
Can I read this real quick?
What? Yeah. Shit. Go ahead. Read it.
Go ahead, man. Read it.
Okay. I just wanted to read this real quick.
Okay.
Huh? I'm gonna read it to you. You don't have to talk when I read it. It's the thing about me reading it.
Okay.
What? Go ahead.
Sorry, there's a deer outside.
Oh, okay.
Just chasing my cat. It's fine.
As a result of his medical examination and the doctor's finding that he needed no medication, nor did he need to be moved, miraculously, Ari began to eat and sleep regularly and start his way to recovery. Probably doesn't bode well for the mental health defensive ploy, in my honest opinion. This person here says, my thoughts exactly. Turned on a dime. Like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, well, back to normal, I guess.
Did he go back to normal? Because the notes I took and the timeline I made very clearly state he just continued going downhill and absolutely did get involuntary medication regularly. Not only weekly injections, but also nightly oral, because he still wasn't sleeping. And he actually had not even started his drastic weight loss yet when this filing was made. He actually lost 40 pounds in 2 months. I don't, if anybody could tell me how you do that, let me know. I don't even think Ozempic can help us with that.
A lot of weight.
A lot of weight.
I'd be interested.
Alan is very manipulative.
No, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you want to, are you still going into this?
Look at this shit. I'm so sorry. I know I'm just giving
this stuff is so triggering.
But I don't know. I guess maybe part of me understands why they're so adamant about him being guilty, because they've spent the better part of a year and a half acting like subhuman fucking ghouls about this man. So it would be really horrifying to learn that the person that you've been verbally, fucking abusing on the internet for a year and a half is in fact an innocent. Anyway.
Yeah, you know what? I'll take being wrong about his innocence, 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. Then I would want to be wrong about his guilt.
It's
so
fan fiction.
Is this?
DB's having a lot of fun right now.
Is this when Holman figured all this out, that Kika Klein was involved? Did Holman have a contract with a private search team or something that he was getting bitten off a piece on or something? Jesus.
I don't know, man.
Was he just reading Reddit posts?
Oh, 100%. You know that they've been reading Reddit posts for sure.
I don't know, but 2 months after this failed clam jam, where the state of Indiana sunk over $1 million, that's not even the totality of the man hours and the money paid to human beings spent, being dedicated to investigate him for the year prior to the clam jam. So, I mean, then we have a completely unrelated arrest 2 months later. I started throwing that into the bucket of, this is another reason we really needed to get an arrest, because everybody had pie on their face.
Sure did.
Everybody read this just as fast as I can scroll it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My eyes just got AIDS.
Yeah, it's so
Ha
funny.
ha
Right?
ha! You're refusing me to say that. It's so funny.
I don't think it's funny when anybody's in psychosis, you know? Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're innocent or guilty. There's something very antisocial about this Reddit page, and I'm not diagnosing them. I'm just saying, objectively, this
I
place
agree.
is disturbing. It's disturbing.
I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm just talking about what could be
I
happening
could,
in
no,
a
but
situation
I
like
don't.
this.
Yeah, hypothetically, you know, having never.
As much as people want to compare him to, like, you know, they try to just pull out those one or two rare
Yeah, Ted Bundy.
examples, like BTK. Oh, BTK was totally normal, had a normal job, nobody knew anything.
But
It's
he
like,
didn't.
it's like
he
you found one example. Do you have any others? But as much as they want to do that,
It's not even a good
why don't you
example.
also, so if you're going to compare their pre-arrest behavior, why don't you also compare their post-arrest behavior? Because it couldn't be any more fucking different between
No.
BTK and Richard Allen.
Doesn't work
Night
like
and
that,
day.
Willow.
Like, you can't be like, they were so much alike pre-arrest, see? And then be like, post-arrest, that doesn't matter. No. Apples to apples.
BTK was an asshole in his day to day.
Of course he was an
didn't like
asshole.
him.
I know a lot of assholes, but probably not killers. But
He wasn't like this. Well, I digress. Anyway.
Well, I think a
not
lot
even-
of people like to prescribe the findings of research on serial killers to every type of and where you have like someone who commits a double homicide, things that research has been done on serial offenders, and it's oftentimes not as you don't have as clear of a study on what they're doing when you have just a single isolated incident in their whole lives.
Right.
True that.
I want to highlight one thing really quick, and then I'm done.
Okay.
Gotta hope the lawyers are pursuing the video. So there's a lot of there's specific. Bye, Michael. Oh, okay. Well, maybe he can clarify. What do you think? What video do you think he's talking about?
Gotta hope the lawyers are pursuing the video. Probably the incel, like the video of him in a cell.
Yeah, that's what I think, probably. So much digressing. Okay. You were saying.
Sorry, I'm trying to, like, it's getting dark in here and my light is blinding me now. All right, so this one, when I got mad when I started putting this one together. So this was another question I had, and I'll run through this real quick, and then you can get into whatever you want to do. So I keep trying to identify, when did Rick go on suicide watch? Because we keep getting conflicting statements about this. And or when did he have these suicide companions present? Now, what we do know is per the IDOC, this program was created so that companions are not for counseling. They're not for lonely prisoners or sad prisoners or angry. They are for people on suicide watch, period. And suicide watch is a very special designation. It's a very special area of the prison, a special cell, special restrictions, and they are not supposed to speak to them. They are not supposed to engage with them, talk to them. They are supposed to keep eyes on them and make sure they stay alive and log any notes about them that get passed on to mental health professionals in the prison, and or IA or central records or whatever. So we'll start in the middle. I should have put that one first. In April of 2023, Nick says that he was placed on suicide watch on day one. Upon his arrival to the facility, he was placed on suicide watch because of certain statements he made about harming himself. Throughout his stay, for however long that was, he made this filing on April 20th. Throughout his stay, he has improved and been taken off of suicide watch. We also know about that by the time he made this filing, Rick was at the lowest point a human being can possibly be at, and absolutely was currently on suicide watch, even though he conveniently left that out of this filing. But he says day one suicide watch based on statements he made about harming himself.
And day one would be November 2023.
Yeah, November
2022.
3rd or what? November 3rd or
2022.
4th or whatever.
Yeah, sorry.
And then scroll down a bit. I didn't put these in a good order. Go down to Walla. Keep going. The comment is blocking it for me. Can you like shrink it a little bit? Oh, there you go. Okay, so per Dr. Walla at her testimony last week, he was placed on suicide. He was placed on suicide watch initially for no fucking reason. So she was asked about this at the hearing. She says there's no records that indicate Rick was suicidal at his intake.
I wonder if it's like protocol, like for all new. No, that's not sustainable. That's ridiculous. No, it can't be. That's not sustainable.
He was placed on suicide watch due to the high risk, no matter what. Like it was just going to happen. Again, suicide watch isn't going to change his cell. Like that cell was hand selected for him. It was going to be his cell no matter what, suicide watch or not. That cell was always his cell. It never changed. Just his restrictions changed. And the fact of whether or not he had suicide companions changed. She said administration was going to keep him there no matter what she said. She referred to it as administrative observation, which I thought was a very unique.
Yellow, can you pull your mic a little closer to you? I don't know if it could just be me. My little thing.
I'm sorry. He was going to be there no matter what. And she referred to it as administrative observation, which is interesting. All right, go up now to the top. Now let's see what the warden said. No.
Everybody say hi to Peggy.
Hi, Peggy. Love
Hey,
Peggy.
Peggy.
Peggy's the best.
I like her glasses. So then the warden in June 2023, when he's asked, you were using these companions, and they wouldn't even refer to them as suicide companions here. I'm not even sure they understood what they were. He said, you were using companions with Mr. Allen, weren't you? The warden says, we were for the first couple of months. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So first couple of months. So the only months he was here so far that we know of. So all of November, December, January, February, March. Then we know he was put on suicide watch April 1st. So there's 5 months that we don't really know what's happening. And the warden said he has companions for the first couple of months. Why? He wasn't on suicide watch, but they had companions there.
Wait, repeat that, Courtney. I think I missed that up until now.
The warden said he didn't say he was on suicide watch for the first couple of months. He said they were using companions for the first couple of months.
Interesting.
Very interesting. In the same testimony later on, the warden goes on to say he wasn't on suicide watch the first couple of months. When he first got there, I don't think he was on suicide watch for a while. I can't give you an exact time, but the recent past months, again, this was June, so that tracks with his April 1st. The recent past months, he's been on some sort of suicide watch. Baldwin or Rosie, whoever's talking to him, says, okay, do you know within a range? Do you know when that switched from not being on suicide watch to being on suicide watch? He says, let's see. I believe we got him November 4th, probably sometime in, it says this is not a correct transcription, probably sometime in September. Like, thanks a lot. This was very important for you to get this correct transition. Sick. Probably sometime in, I don't know what that word is supposed to fucking be, but let's say it was a misunderstanding in the audio. Maybe December, or who fucking knows?
No, I think he was on suicide watch so intensely that it actually went a couple months before he was even arrested.
That's possible. So I believe we got him November 4th, probably sometime in who fucking knows. I think he wasn't on suicide watch for the first couple of months, I believe. So he was not on suicide watch for the first couple of months, which also tracks with Dr. Walla saying there was no notes upon intake that he was suicidal. It does not track with the warden also saying that he had companions at his cell for the first couple of months, because those are suicide companions.
Not suicide companions.
Yeah. And it also doesn't track with Nick saying he was placed on suicide watch from the beginning because of certain statements he made about harming himself. So I'm sorry, let me just put on my tinfoil and get called a conspiracy theorist real quick here. My only takeaway from all of this is that they used suicide companions off-label as agents of the state. Like the suicide companions became convicted felons outside of his cell 24/7 with a pen and paper
The
taking notes on.
surveillance. Yeah, they were surveilling him.
They were surveilling him. They were talking to him, even though it's against the rules to talk
That's
to him.
so
They were going back and telling other inmates about it. They were calling up their baby mama and their friends on the phone and telling them that they're watching Rick Allen. Those people are spreading it out to the public. There's just a game to everybody. He's also being taunted. He's being called baby killer. He's being screamed at to kill yourself. Anytime that they did declare him on suicide watch, which we still can't get a clear answer about that, everything about his living situation changes. His cell doesn't change, but his conditions do. His blanket gets taken away. His clothes get taken away. Anything that they can say, well, that could be a weapon, which is probably literally anything and everything gets taken away. Gets no rec, or like even more limited rec than the 3 hours a week he should be entitled to. It's just, I'll get called a conspiracy theorist for it, but I can't put together a story any different than the suicide companions became companions, aka spies for the state.
This is a good question here. Can I read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Peggy asked Travis, it was my understanding once you've executed your Fifth Amendment rights, the state cannot talk to you. I perceive the companions as state actors or agents. What are your thoughts? So I'll let Travis take that one too in the chat. But yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of cases in the past where law enforcement has made a second pass at somebody that was under counsel and had already asserted their rights. And it's just not only a self-incrimination issue, but you have a right to an attorney. And if you are exercising the right to communicate through an attorney, they can't just usurp that by coming straight to you. So it begs the question, if law enforcement can't do it and a prosecutor can't do it, and you wouldn't want just any old person showing up to elicit a confession, who would be a good person? It's not law enforcement. That's not a prosecutor that could talk to this individual, and could be maybe not his wife, right? Spousal privilege.
Right.
Who would be a good person to throw in there? See what's going on.
It's so like maniacal though. Like who thought of that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I want to know.
We'll never know. You'll never know.
I'll never know.
We'll never know.
I wonder how frequently they do this though. I guess it's not. Sorry, go ahead.
In Indiana, there's this exception for confessions of details pertaining to a homicide that get some of the detail. I mean, it seems as though they're talking about getting some of the details correct to be able to meet this exception. So, yeah. Travis's answer here is that's footnotes forte. He's talking about Michael Osbrook. And after a critical stage under the 6th, you have the right to have an attorney. like a safekeeping proceeding. That's right.
Yeah.
So, if he doesn't have an attorney and there's a hearing talking about his safety and evidence is presented and he doesn't have the ability to cross-examine it, it seems like it would be an issue.
It does seem like it would be and should be an issue.
Yeah, and the sheriff that went to visit for some unknown reason.
I think we're going to get into this in a little bit when we look at the timeline, and we have kind of like not like a challenge, but like an ask of the community, of our viewers and friends, to kind of like a little call to action to kind of help us fill in some of the gaps, because that almost visit that Tony Liggett took, and whenever he took it, like, I have some fucking questions about that,
You know who doesn't have questions about that?
Who?
North Korea. They just be doing that shit.
They do just be doing that shit. They have, I don't even know if they even have trials in North Korea? Do they have them in secret? Are you even afforded one? I don't know. White? I think White County.
What's the question?
Where did they make Ron Logan serve his probation violations? He was left naked without his teeth and fed a diet that he couldn't gum. That is true also. I think that was White County. Right, Yellow?
Very fucking cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
No, it wasn't White. That doesn't sound right. It wasn't
Cass.
That's Patty Westfall's favorite county.
I feel like it was a... I'll know it if I hear it.
I got it.
Yeah, just so you guys know, I just steal people's jokes sometimes in the chat.
I think it starts with
an
an F. I feel like it starts with an F. I want to say Farmerville, but that's not right.
Let's see.
See if it starts with an F.
Okay, I'm pulling it up.
I almost want to say it was like Indiana State Prison or something. Is that a thing? Is that a place?
He was in sorry. Here it is.
I have not read about the North Korean tapes from the dark side prison. I can only take studying one serial civil rights violating state
At a time.
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people say about, let's see, I think it was Biggie's comment up here. Where is it? I've seen a lot of people say, I mean, out of 61 confessions, how many were consistent? And, I've heard a lot of people say that 61 confessions is a lot and that there's got to be a lot to overcome and everything. But what if there were 62?
What if there were 62?
So Rosie, what he said about that is, it's not 61 confessions, it's 61 procured things that Holman got from a combination of his phone records, the inmate companions, the psychologist. And Rosie was even like, Rosie was like, if you can even call them all confessions, like, it's just various things that he picked out that was like, that's something, lump that in there. And so this was their moment. This was their big moment to be there public at a hearing talking about these incriminating statements. This was the state's chance to just light this shit on fire, inflame the public with all of the stuff he said, right? They didn't. The statements or things that they made a special point to talk about were, I did it. I killed them. I killed Abby and Libby. I used a box cutter and threw it away in the dumpster at CVS. And of course, from a previous filing, we saw I molested them and shot them in the back. And that's it. That is all we heard about in an entire day of hearings, where Nick had free reign to just put that shit out there. And cause chaos. Of course, they said, oh, he said things only the killer would know. What? Like he used a box cutter?
Yeah, like that was
threw it away in the dumpster? Like, is that, like, did you know that that's what happened? Because the answer is no. And then Nick continued to, throughout the hearings, just kind of tease out their entire theory of motive.
Yeah.
Which was the scene wasn't ritualistic, it was an undoing. Because he was instantly remorseful, right?
Sure.
Because after you kill 2 children for no reason, you don't even sexually assault them. Oh, wait, he was going to sexually assault them, but killed them too fast.
He killed him too fast? Yeah.
Like, he killed him before he got a chance to assault them.
Yeah, that doesn't always, that probably wouldn't stop someone, but I understand the argument.
Yeah. And that his confessions and statements were out of remorse and wanting to make amends and get right with God, which Nick probably thought long and hard about it and probably thought this is really going to resonate with a Midwest Indiana jury.
A little problem with that.
Big
Half
problem.
your population, big problem with that. Half your population are fucking Odinists. So I don't think it's going to resonate. I'm just joking.
Well, and this is going to be an Allen County jury.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know a ton about Allen County, but I know it's way bigger and way more diverse and way more, let's just say, comparatively, probably more progressive. And yeah, it'll be
probably not so friendly with the white supremacist types.
Here's hoping. Yeah. Explain this one, Courtney.
Yes. So we can go to this one and then another one real quick. So I noticed this in the subpoena Dookie Teekums from April 20th.
Subpoena Dukas Takem.
Oh my God, where did that come from?
Subpoena Dukas Takem.
God, he's good. He just had it on deck, like ready.
Amazing.
Oh, that was me at Harvard graduating.
So investigators believe that there's video evidence that will include his admissions. This was filed on 4/20. There's video evidence that will include his admissions. Plus, they want to see his behavior before and directly after these confessions on April 3rd to his wife. They also believe logs kept of his daily routines are important. That would be suicide companion logs. That's the only person who's making logs. So Nick filed this on April 20th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you sure those weren't
2023.
CBT worksheets?
Huh?
Are you sure those weren't CBT worksheets?
I don't
Or
know what they
cognitive
were.
behavioral therapy?
Maybe. Now go to the other one that includes this, but also has some more shit all over it. No. Yes. Back. Yes, that one. So he sent this subpoena. This was also included as part of that one we just saw, with documents and records to be produced. This is what he was asking the judge for. Now, remember, he filed this in conjunction with a different document that wanted also his mental health records and stuff from psychologists and stuff like that. But this one here, any notes from guards, inmates, Westville personnel that have made written observation of Rick Allen. It's literally suicide companions. You're agents of the state. You're convicted felons that you have stationed there. In the first several months he was there for no reason because he wasn't on suicide watch. So Nick wanted all this shit. We do know that eventually, like after 3 more times of filing for the mental health records, Gold did eventually grant those, like earlier this year. but she didn't. And the defense tried to quash the defense tried to quash this.
No,
But Judge Gull didn't deny that quashing until May 30th. All that tells me is that up until May 30th, the state, Nick, investigators should not have had jack shit in terms of information about anything Rick is doing or saying in written documents or video surveillance or anything else at Westville, because Nick was specifically asking for all of that. And it didn't get denied, aka Nick's motion approved, until May 30th. Yet we know that Nick had shitloads of information about his activities prior to May 30th. And we know that Mullins had enough information prior to May 30th that he made a trip to Westville to interview Lacey Patton, one of Rick's suicide companions, and get statements from him and get a transcript prepared before Nick even had authority to see log sheets about observations made about Rick. Does that make anybody feel any kind of way? You're on mute.
No, I feel nothing.
And then, of course, we have Gallipo's testimony last week, just kind of talking about what happens to these companion log sheets. He was unsure about companion training, but the log sheets eventually go to Dr. Walla and or Internal Affairs or Central Records, aka not him, not anybody who should be willingly handing it over to law enforcement without a subpoena.
And something that came out was also just how Holman was allowed in the control room, right?
Was that in there?
I'm pretty
It was
sure.
in your notes.
Go back and check. I just keep thinking of things and going back and finding it and being like, holy crap, that didn't even mean anything to me when I wrote it down.
Yeah, so the control room is where they were doing the cross-examination on investigator maps, and they were asking, well, who was allowed in there? Okay, so it's only the warden or you or somebody on that team that's allowed in there, right? Oh, well, if you could look at the electronic system, could you see what was going on at Pendleton? You know, all
Was that the
line of-
control room? I thought she referred to that as something else. I'll have to go back
well,
and check.
that line of questioning was the control room line of questioning.
Okay, good to know.
Because
Then,
that's where the notes from the psychologist was kept.
right.
And exactly. So Jamie has it right here. So Dr. Walla tore her notes up in there, and they put the digital entries into the system in the control room.
In the control room, why wouldn't she do that in like a fucking office? That doesn't make any sense. Why would she be doing that in the control room? Just for Rick or like in general? Probably.
And then the other question, sorry, my chair is squeaky. Do you hear that?
Yes.
Gallipo was also asked, how did the companion log sheets get from the prison to law enforcement? Because as of last week, I guess Rosie really wasn't clear on that yet. And the warden says he's unsure. He didn't approve it. They go to Dr. Walla because they are suicide companions, and Dr. Walla is the only one who can put somebody on suicide watch. So it makes sense that the suicide companions are collecting information to report back to their treating psychologist. That would make sense, right? So their logs, their notes go to Dr. Walla. They might go to central office with a request, which he did see. So there was some sort of request for these log sheets to go to central records. I'm not clear on who made that request. You're on mute.
And I just said, why? Like, why? Fucking why? That's all.
And then, I'm sorry, will you take that comment down real quick? I can't see it. And then how did they get from central office to law enforcement? Again, he has no clue. He has no clue whose hands they exchanged en route to
He
central office.
never has any clue. How some guy let me in, I just show up, I punch a number, I don't know what number, and some guy lets me in, I don't know what guy.
Yeah.
Get bent. That's ridiculous.
That's
There's
a
no
lie.
way that he's that dense.
That's how white dudes work.
There's no way that prior to this testimony that the warden didn't have a heads up that this was going to be an issue that he was questioned about and didn't want to find out the answer. So, and also they didn't share any of this with Rick Allen. So Rick Allen never understood that anything he did or said in his cell while the companions were outside of it was going to eventually get in the hands of law enforcement. I mean, hell, they didn't even ever get him to sign any kind of consent form that his conversations with the psychologist were not privileged. Not that it really matters when you're in a full swing of psychosis, but still, there's just processes that you're supposed to do.
Well, and there was a part in, I think on Wednesday when you were covering the afternoon hearings with Vala, that you said when Rosie asked her, like, so what are the exceptions to patient confidentiality? And she rattled off all of them except for the Indiana code, that the exception for a homicide case.
There was literally 8 and she stated 7.
It's not a clinical, but like, why would a clinician, I mean, she should know that. She's a DOC clinician, but like,
she knows that.
But like, it's just, yeah, that just stood out to me.
Me too. Is this making sense? Are people understanding? Like, y'all smell what I'm stepping in here?
Put a 1 in the
It
chat.
made sense in my head. I just don't know if it does in everybody else's.
Drop a 1 in the chat if you smell what Yellow's stepping in. Thank you. I definitely smell it, Yellow, for sure.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta turn on some lights here. I'm sitting in the dark. I feel like a
Digital
vampire.
said, don't forget Westville is also on Nick's do not mention list. Is that in his
It's in the motion of
Lemonade?
luminescence.
His motion of lemonade? Yeah, he includes Westville in there. Of course he does. Of course he does. Man.
Yeah, so Nick subpoenaed mental and medical records from WCF Westville Correctional Facility, audio and video from WCF, employment records from CVS, and Gall denied the subpoena for CVS, and the medical records were granted the subpoena for audio and video. But he was denied the medical records. But what medical records was he looking for? He was looking for clinician notes, maybe? Maybe he was looking for things that the clinician said about what suicide companions said to her.
Yeah. And I wonder too, like, medications would matter, you know, in terms of assessing your defendant's mental status. But it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that when Nick filed these Dookie Teakums, he was asking for things that he pretty
Subpoena
much
Dukas Takem.
that he already pretty much had, right? It's almost like he had them and he needed to like go about and get them legally, kind of like he did with his ex parte, you know, reading the ex parte thing. Like, he's saying, oh, we think that this might be important and this might be important and this might be important. Well, yeah, because he already knew that it would be. And I suspect he knew that he was going to have to go through the legal channels to obtain these things the proper way. But it feels like there's some leakage from DOC to the prosecutor's office, no?
Seepage, if you will.
Some seepage and some leakage. Some creepage, if you will. Yeah,
Oh,
I
there's
got a
definitely some
problem with
creepage.
that. What?
Creeping going on.
Yeah, there's some creeping going on. I don't know that song.
It's a new song. It just
like
came
it.
out.
I can barely hear you, by the way. It's fine. I can hear you, but you're faint. I have to like work for it.
I'm flying away.
There he is. If the protective order was unconstitutional, the confessions would be fruit of the poisonous tree, making any statements of admission irrelevant. Interesting. I have been harping, if you will, on this. I think protective order, like over the discovery of the protective order, meaning like just like Rick being Scott. I think you mean like Rick being there, right? Maybe you don't. But yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's an argument to be made that safekeeping was so outrageously unconstitutional, like especially the way that they did it, and the confinement and the detention of Rick the entire time he was in DOC is so unconstitutional. They were basically perpetually violating his constitutional rights for every minute that he spent in DOC. And if you obtain evidence through violating somebody's constitutional rights, you don't get to use that evidence in a perfect world. Right? But we don't live in a perfect world. Hi, Yellow. Welcome back. Ooh! There she is.
What'd I do?
Nothing. And everything. Go on. We were talking about the Fruit Loops of the poisonous tree.
Here's a great comment from Jay. I don't understand why some people are singing Walla's praises. She saw Richard day one. She saw his health deteriorating to the point of lunacy. And she has the audacity to say he might be feigning.
She did mention that once, and my impression was that it was in regards to like the later, like the May onwards. She didn't seem to have any questions about what was going on with him, like around April. And then she also said he might have been over medicated. And then she said he kept saying that he wanted to go to Logansport State Hospital because his family could see him there.
Can you put that comment back up for a second, please, DB, if you can find it, and if not, that's okay. So I think that we went from kind of automatically assuming that Walla was a problem to really wanting to give her the benefit of the doubt, right? The pendulum kind of has swung all over the place. I actually, after reading and hearing your notes and percolating for a few days, I'm really pretty just disillusioned and disgusted with a lot of. I wouldn't want to be in what?
No, never mind.
I wouldn't want to be in her position at all. I wouldn't want the job that she has. I wouldn't want the responsibility that she has. I wouldn't want a high-profile patient like this, though it seems she kind of sought him out in certain ways. But so I'm trying to like be a little bit gracious because I wouldn't want to do it. So like I'm trying, I don't want to moralize it too much. But as somebody in a similar in the same field, not anywhere near a psychologist, but like I can't imagine witnessing a patient experiencing distress, period. Physical, mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual. Like if and anybody in psychosis is so distressing for the person experiencing it. It's fucking terrifying. Just because you're not in your right mind doesn't mean that you're not acutely aware that something is terribly wrong, and it's terrifying. It's confusing, it's disorienting, it's just horrific. And witnessing somebody in psychosis, you can't miss it. There's no malingering this kind of psychosis. I mean, maybe somebody could, but not like this. And the symptoms that they're describing and all of that, like, miss me with that shit. But the fact that this, like, really fucking, it was just devastating to hear that he's actually expressing the desire to go to the fucking hospital. Take me to the hospital. Why didn't they take him to the fucking hospital? Why? He's sick. He's very sick. He's critically ill. He's gravely fucking ill. We have something called mental health parity in the United States. It's a fucking federal thing where you cannot treat mental illness and physical illness as two, like one does not take precedent or have more legitimacy than the other. And so if I'm gravely mentally ill, I need to be treated with the same care and concern and timeliness as if I were physically gravely ill. So just like the failure, everybody has fucking failed this man, not even as a defendant, just as a patient, as a person. Like, that's my soapbox. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be like overly critical of her, but there's
it's true.
so much shit that she did that was so fucking inappropriate. Don't give him a fucking book about a concentration camp. That's probably pretty fucking traumatic for somebody who's basically in a concentration camp. Like, what the fuck is she thinking?
She went back and forth. Like, at the hearing, she went back and forth between being very, like, sympathetic and acknowledging all of this is wrong. All of this is not okay.
Yeah.
All of this is not my definition of those words. All of
Sure.
this is not what I see. And then in the same breath being like, not my fault. I could have said anything I want. I don't have any power to change it. And I'm like, then fucking say who did have the authority to change it.
That's just not true.
Nobody wants to, like, turn on the person that is. Somebody had the authority to say, we're not sending him to a different DOC facility that has mental health facilities. Somebody made that choice. Somebody made that call. Somebody had that authority. And if it ain't you, who is it?
I see a comment here.
I don't know if I elaborated on this, but sorry. She was lawyered up there. She had, I think, 2 or 3 attorneys with her. And twice during her testimony, she referred to the hearing which we can't speak of, meaning the April 14th.
The hearing that
meeting.
We what, Yellow?
Like the meeting we can't speak of, the meeting I can't talk about. So on April 14th, there was a meeting between 2 psychologists and a psychiatrist. I'm assuming she was one of them, to decide if he needed to be started on involuntary medication. Mind you, this was the day after they had just given him an emergency one-time Haldol injection. There was a meeting to determine if he needed to be started on, like, a protocol of involuntary medication, and if he needed to move to a different facility that had mental health service, like legit mental health services. There's a list of them. There's Wabash. There's
He's in psychosis. He's fucking psychotic. What else what are you waiting
per
for?
Per her diagnosis. Serious
So
mental
what the
illness.
fuck else are you waiting for? That's the most acute fucking state you can be in. Assessing whether or not he needs to go somewhere where they have what was it, Yellow? Where they have what? Mental health?
Like legit mental health, like, services.
Serious
legit mental health shit. Like, this is insane.
And then per
so
Nick's
much
filing,
work.
Nick's filing was Nick's filing is the only thing we've ever seen on this meeting. Nick's filing on April 20th, 2023 is the only report we have from this meeting where it says it was determined in that meeting that he did not need to go to a different facility and he did not need to start involuntary medication. Now, what we know from her testimony is he did, in fact, after that meeting, start involuntary medication. They did agree. It was a flat out lie in Nick's filing. They did start him on involuntary medication, weekly Haldol injections, plus a nightly oral Haldol. But then I guess they're all in agreement that it was decided, we don't fucking know by who, because apparently the lead psychologist over the entire prison doesn't have the authority to say he needs to go to a different facility.
Bullshit. She's the exact person that has the authority. Yeah.
So you need to like start asking yourself, why? Was she being legit that I don't have that authority and somebody else that wasn't supposed to be pulling the strings was pulling the strings, like the state of Indiana or Jerome Holman or Nick McClellan or the warden? Was somebody in like cahoots to pull those strings and be like, no, we want to keep him here because we have this fancy cell with a video camera in it 24/7, and we're keeping him as far away from his attorneys and family as possible. And we have a very controlled situation going on right here to get us exactly what we want. Like, was that the situation that was going on? Because that's hella illegal for a million reasons. Was that the situation going on? Or was the situation going on that Dr. Walla did have the authority to say he needs to go somewhere else, but chose not to because he was her little pet?
TV, pop off.
Hey, so I just wanted to go back to this comment really quick, and then we'll move on. But just wanted to say myself, I am a concerned citizen as well. And I see your question here. How do you think prison works? Do you think inmates are taken to the hospital when they ask? As a fellow concerned citizen, I'd just like to say that he's not just an average inmate. He's not been convicted of a crime. And he was a level D in their classification out of 5 different levels, E being as worst as it gets. The doctor that he's seen, a DOC doctor, who I hate to break it to you guys, no one gets to the top of their class in psychology and says, I'm going to go work for the Department of Corrections. They're
Here's
not
your
the
first
leading
job.
researchers. And that's not being insulting, but like they're just not out there on the front lines determining what types of behavior should be associated to psychosis. They're not doing the research. And you have somebody that's extremely underpaid and probably has all the incentive in the world not to say this person was in psychosis, yet it reached to that level of psychosis for them to say officially they believe he was in psychosis. And I think that we can all imagine ourselves. Maybe you had a career that you thought about wanting to be a part of since you went to school or you went to college. And maybe you wanted to be a public servant, or maybe you wanted to do something like this. You wanted to help other people, right? You get out of college, you start working, and they say sometimes you live long enough as the hero to watch yourself become the villain. If you are a Department of Corrections psychologist, you may have started that job thinking that you could do some good, but you are an arm of an oppressive state that only exists to punish those who are in front of it. And when you are an inmate, that's constitutional rights have been violated, and you're put in front of the arm of the state, and that person's acting on behalf of the state to punish you and extract punishment from you, there's only so many different outcomes. And one of them is going to be that you're going to be a villain to a lot of people, and you're going to be a villain to a lot of other mental health providers that are watching what you're doing, and they don't agree with it, and they think that you're fucked up.
Preach.
I agree. Can I add something to this?
Yeah, whatever,
comment,
dude.
Let me just bogart the floor for a second.
Go ahead. Go.
Can you put that back? I'm so sorry. Can you put it back up, please?
A different comment?
Yeah, or I can find it. It's okay. Well, there's actually a newer one. So Concerned Citizen says, I agree, but that's where he was. So those are the policies that they're working under. It's being talked about as if moving to a hospital when asked is normal. So actually, inmates get to go to the optometrist. Convicted felons, murderers get to go to the optometrist. If they have cancer, they get to go to an oncologist. They get to go to the dentist. They get to go to the podiatrist. They get to go to the psychologist. Like, just because somebody is convicted in the United States doesn't mean that they don't get medical care and treatment. In fact, it's irrelevant if you are a doctor in a fancy bougie Hollywood rehab facility, or you are a psychologist, or you are a psychologist in DOC bumfuck Indiana. It's irrelevant. You take an oath, you treat people who are sick, and if somebody is in front of you suffering and you have the agency to help them, that's part of your fucking oath as a medical professional, as a psychologist. I know for a fact that she swore that she would do that. So yeah, I do think that if an inmate is expressing the need to go to a hospital and you've already diagnosed them multiple fucking times as being acutely psychotic, psychosis is not just a mental state. Psychosis deteriorates your fucking physical body. And I believe that she even talked about that at one point in her testimony. So
2 months later.
2 months after he asked her.
2 months.
Right.
2 months of psychosis. 2 months of being in a vegetative state of depression, peaking, running and crashing your head into a concrete wall.
Couldn't dial a phone.
Yeah. 2 months later, physiological symptoms were presenting: stuttering, trembling, bulging eyes, knees buckling.
Yeah. Right.
That's the Rick Allen we saw at the June safekeeping hearing. And what do you know? What do you fucking know? In July, there were some signs of restoration. Isn't that amazing? I want to know, I'm asking myself, and I wish people would ask themselves, what did anybody have to gain by keeping him there? Why didn't they want to get rid of him like the plague? Who wants that liability? Who wants that responsibility? Like, you could have shipped him off anywhere else and been like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't want this problem in my life. Why? Who benefited from him staying there? Not him. Not the people that are going to be held liable in a future lawsuit one day. Not Dr. Walla.
Ask that question, but like not hypothetically, Yellow, because I would actually really like to know.
I think there's 61 reasons why.
Yes, I agree with you as to the why, but who wanted him there? Like, who is fucking? I'm gonna sound crazy. I'm gonna sound like a crank, you know. But like, who is making these decisions? Thank you. Was it you and me, Courtney, or me and Deep? We were talking about like somebody is directing this, right? Somebody is directing the 24/7 surveillance. Somebody is directing him.
Jerry Holman did that. Jerry Holman gave the orders to put him in a cell with video recording capabilities on day one. He gave that instruction to, what's it called? Like the RDU, like what's it called? The R something, like the central dispatch, like the central IDOC intake facility, whatever that is.
Yeah.
RDH. I'll look it up later. There's some fucking acronym for it. But like the head honcho intake place.
RDC.
He gave, Westville said the orders came from RDC. Jerry Holman on the stand confirmed he gave those orders. So it all started with my favorite mob boss, Jerry Holman.
So Jerome is the problem again.
He's always been the problem. He's been the problem since he arrested Richard Allen because he got a hot head one day and got pissed off because the dude came to pick up his car and told him, I don't know what you did. You're guilty of something, and I'm going to fucking prove it. And slapped cuffs on him while Doug Carter was out of town, and the sheriff at the time, Tobe Lesenby, was out of town or
he's at his
on
dad's
leave
funeral
after his father passed away. And he just seems to have went full send without any real authority to do so, and just assume he's going to prove it later. So he's going to prove something later. I
would like to know how much involvement or discretion or direction Jerome had over the Klein fiasco. I know Vito, that was Vito's baby, right? But it would seem that the lead ISP detective for the Unified Command Task Force would have had to have been at least on board with that investigative avenue. So, like,
Well, I feel like it all, I mean, maybe I'm speculating, but it's all going to route up to Doug Carter, right? Like, he tells these people what job they do, where they go, what they work, which task force they're on. Like, he gives all the
Dougie, baby.
I mean,
what
those
you
are all
doing?
those are all his men that he is responsible for giving their promotions and demotions to, right?
oh, so the buck stops with Doug Carter, essentially.
Who
So
I
someone
still
like-
want to know. I found it wildly mysterious because he had so many of his men there testifying in the most important case he's ever been the spokesperson for. He wasn't at the hearings once. He did not make a guest appearance. He didn't pop in for any of the hearings. He was not out and milling around in the hallways talking to people.
well, not that you saw.
He didn't show up the entire week.
Unless he's holed up in the viewing room that we were conspiratorially speculating about, right?
The last time we really heard from Doug Carter about this case, he said, well, the judge signed the probable cause affidavit, didn't he?
Yeah, the judge signed the probable cause affidavit for the arrest of him. And one day he will be able to tell us the whole story.
But not today.
Not today.
Apparently not at the trial either, because they're not going to have all the exculpatory information.
Doug Carter was at like all of Kagan Klein's fucking sentencing hearings, all of them.
Gross.
And pretrial.
Why?
Because it was personal to Doug Carter.
It was so personal that they let him be a free man for 2.5 years after they knew
no, I don't
he had a smorgasbord of CSAM.
I don't mean the crimes, Courtney. They don't care about. Let me be careful. I'm trying to be less inflammatory. I don't mean that it was personal like the crimes. I mean like he embarrassed ISP. That's all. That's all they care about.
Good job.
That's it. They just care about their fucking saving face. That's all they care about. Never mind the fact that your guys left a fucking
pedophile.
Yeah. Hundreds of girls he's apparently catfishing. Then he gets, gets by the fucking skin of his teeth, doesn't get arrested, even though he should have. They let him go. He continues to fucking offend. And then for some reason, they arrest him and they try and square fucking peg round hole a Klein into the Delphi investigation. Doesn't work. That's embarrassing. And then you decide, Doug Carter et al., to take the word of a CSAM disseminating fucking pervert liar who's been a thorn in your ass for 3 years at this point. You decide to take his word for it when he says, I threw a weapon in the Wabash. And then you, fucking dread $1 million? Like, you want to, like, why are they so desperate? But they're not desperate, like, in a good way. It's like...
Because Keegan had a 40 caliber weapon. He had a Smith & Wesson 40 caliber weapon that they could never find or account for. And he said his dad threw away the knife that he killed the girls with in the river.
Oh, the knife, not the box cutter.
And Keegan also threw away a phone in there. And they found apparently many knives and many cell phones and many firearms in the clam jam. And not a single one of them had any connection to the Kleins. Interesting.
And by the way, they're looking for a knife that he threw in the Wabash, right? Not a box cutter. Just so we're clear. $1 million to locate a discarded knife 6 years later. Not a box
cutter. From two dudes that you show are active using their phones at their fucking home all day.
Interesting. So
but Brad Holder's work records are enough to stop everybody dead in their tracks.
Fucking dial it back for a second. So Doug Carter takes his copper chopper to wherever the fuck he goes, debacle, and then he makes an announcement on either the last week of August or the first week of September in 2022, and he says there's no arrest imminent. That's embarrassing. That's fucking embarrassing for you and your agency.
So embarrassing that they would never even publicly admit that it had anything to do with Delphi.
But they never
we literally didn't know, is this a training exercise? Why are they leaving it unsecured at nighttime? Why are there dudes out there in their underwear?
Dude, I don't fucking know. I'm never
gonna. They have
understand.
Snorkel gear, and they're in their tighty whities. Is this a real legit search? They're not wearing gloves. They're looking for a knife, and they're not wearing gloves on their hands.
There's a lot of butt cracks in those official.
Not how any of this works.
So all of that to say, I don't know where Doug Carter is. I think Doug Carter probably, as a career politician through and through, wants to stay as fucking far away from this embarrassment as possible. That's what I think. And maybe he knows that there's some other shit coming down the pipeline. For example, maybe after so much fuckery, you're going to draw the attention of maybe a fucking fed.
Anyways, this French versus Owens case is really interesting.
Go ahead. I'm gonna shut up.
French versus Owens is it's about the Eighth Amendment application or the Eighth Amendment violations of IDOC based off from the overcrowding, lacks of classifications, where inmates were being held with other extremely violent inmates when they did not have the same violent records. And this is a Pendleton case, and it's a pretty damning review of the conditions at a very notorious Indiana State Prison. It talks a lot about medical care.
Westville? Why are you not saying Westville?
Is Westville in here too?
She said it. Peggy said it was Westville.
Oh, okay. Yep. Here we go. There's a part in here about Westville. 4% will be psychotic, acutely psychotic. 6 to 8% were less severely psychotic. But this is also just mainly about the prison conditions of IDOC as a whole, I believe. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is because it's about the Eighth Amendment. And as I'm sure a lot of you know, the Eighth Amendment pertains to cruel and unusual punishment.
Punishment's a key word there. That
punishment is unconstitutional. Any type of punishment, whether it is cruel or unusual, is unconstitutional for anyone who's not been convicted of a crime.
Even withholding a meal, even
yes,
anything that is considered a punishment for what they've been charged for a pretrial defendant is that shit's in the Constitution. It is not allowed. It's not okay.
But he's in fucking disciplinary housing.
And you say you lose the ability to access your tablet, which is your ability to communicate. You have a higher level of rights for communication than somebody who is a prisoner in prison.
They didn't even try to make arrangements for him at any normal county jails. They made zero attempts to do that.
They acted. Oh, you mean before they shipped him off? Also, why did we know about the safekeeping arrangement on October 28th?
That's a fucking fantastic question. Talk about that a little more.
Because I think, let me find it. That's really fucking weird. And it's not like we were digging around, or I didn't even know what that was at the time, which is why imagine my fucking horror when we realized a year and a half later that we actually knew about the safekeeping arrangement before we even knew the defendant's name.
Who did you give nudes to for that?
Oh, McQuaid.
Everyone?
Old man McQuaid. I don't get that. Like, why would Russ McQuaid? Maybe we can ask him. He's chatty. Why would Russ McQuaid?
He's an asshole. I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Okay.
Big old fucking asshole. I saw him at the hearings.
Say why.
He's dressed real cute, fedora. Like, you know, I talked to him. When we left on the last day, I was kind of like boogieing down the stair, big old wrapping spiral staircase, and I'm just kind of walking down it normal. This dude comes flying. He's like, comes flying past me. I try to crack one little joke with this dude. I was like, oh, you think you're going to tweet before me? And like, I just kind of like pumped my legs, like trying to be funny with him. And he goes, I don't tweet, and just keeps on running. And I was like, I hope you fucking fall.
You got clapped by McQuaid, Yellow?
Yeah, he's a fucking asshole. Fuck that dude.
Russ McQuaid is not an asshole, says Shelley.
He might not be, but whatever.
He
So I was
certainly
like, I hope you
didn't think that was very funny. Maybe he should tweet. I wish he would tweet, because then I could
would
tweet
too.
him and say, why do I know that, like, why did you know? Well, anyway, I can't do two things at once.
Shelly, I'm just playing. He's not actually an asshole. He was just,
Are you from here?
He was just a grump from me.
Can't you tell
No,
from
I'm
her
not, no.
voice, from her accent? She's
Aren't you from here?
No. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I was just there. I'm not from there. I was just there.
You're allowed to say someone's an asshole if they're acting like an asshole, though. I am an asshole every other day. Every day, in fact.
I still do enjoy his Facebook posts and all that stuff.
Let's see.
He still tweets.
Does he tweet?
I tweet him all the time. Me and
He
Fiend.
said he didn't. He
Me
definitely.
and Fiend tweet him, say, stop being a
I'm
little
sorry, I
idiot."
interrupted you. Continue. Go on.
Oh, I was just making a stupid
Why did
joke.
Russ McQuaid know about the safekeeping?
No, and you interrupted me. I interrupted DB, who's actually talking about case, a precedent-setting case. So go ahead, DB. We're listening.
That's it. Go ahead.
I was just going to send this to you. I mean, I'm sure people believe us. But
He's
it's
a
still...
class act.
Who, McQuaid? Okay,
Oh,
sure.
you just say that because he's wearing a fedora.
Yeah. I do like a fedora. I wish he wouldn't speak in so many riddles. Like, I appreciate a riddle here and there, but like, it's a lot. There's a lot of riddle. Yeah, tweet, Russ, bitch. Get with the times,
Oh, dude, there's
man.
nothing better than just popping out the little LB on somebody, man. Dude, it's so immature, but it's a classic. Do you realize these journals pretty much solved this?
What journals? What journals,
No,
Shelley?
I'm definitely not aware of that.
I'm not a journalist, but
I have
thank you.
seen zero journalists that have solved this.
How so? I would love for that to be
Yeah,
the
but I'm
case,
interested to
Shelley.
hear what that means.
I really would like for that to be the case. Tell us how, please, if you can, if you will, if you'll oblige us. I think it's funny that you got clapped by McQuaid, Courtney.
It was funny. I liked him.
I think it's
I
very
thought he was
funny.
like just really stylish and adorable, and I was trying to just like make a little joke with him, and he was just like, bitch.
Your charm. He was
Kind of hurt my
impervious.
feelings. It hurt my feelings a little bit.
He was impervious.
Yeah.
We have
So
a
you're,
request
You know who I
here from
did?
a listener.
You know who I sat by the first day though? That was super duper nice.
Who?
Dave Bangert.
Who's that?
He's one of the journalists. He used to work for, I think, Journal and Courier. I might be getting that wrong. I'm not sure. He has like his own website and his own like thing now called basedinlafayette.com.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you'll find his name in all the old articles and everything. And he was super nice. Like just chatted me after that. What got you interested? Are you a reporter? Are you this? And I was like, no. And he's like, why are you here? And I was like, nobody's ever asked me a question that direct. Like, I don't know. I'm fucking weird and crazy. I don't know. You're just kind of like, do you live here? Like, do you know people? I'm like, no. He's like, so what are you doing here? Like,
What's in this
Dave,
document?
quit asking me these logical questions.
Okay, focus. We need to focus, Courtney.
Okay,
What's
go
in this document that we're looking at? And Ooh, we got some smoke in the chat. We got smoke. We got live smoke.
Shelly, calm down.
That works. Shelly,
Nobody's coming at you, Shelly.
we're happy you're here, even though, you know, we're upsetting you. It's not our intention. Sleuthy wants to know, what is this document and how do they get it? The answer to the second part is, I'll share it with everybody after, but what is in this document?
What is? I don't know. Which one?
In front of you on the screen.
I already went over this one. What
Oh.
is in this document?
Oh, I don't know. Sleuthy. This is the discrepancies in the Duke and Kekums, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Unless there was another one up that I missed.
No, we went through that one. Those were the best ones. I think I went through the ones that are the best ones.
It's multiple pictures. What is it? Where are they? So can you go through again, Court, real quick, just like the origin of each of the screenshots real quick, so we can so if she wants to refer to them individually or
yeah, so the one at the top, that is from April 20th. That is for the subpoena, one of the two subpoenas that Nick filed.
And that's 2023. Sorry, go ahead.
2023. So there was one for, and I guess we can post links for all these documents.
Yeah.
People, I have them all, actually I had them all collected in that little drive folder that I made.
Perfect.
So we could probably,
yeah, we'll do that.
Can I share a link? Can you share a link in the chat?
Yeah.
You could share the link to that whole folder.
I think you can share one too. Am I, because I am a mod, and you're a mod, and DB's definitely a mod because it's his channel. So where is that link, Courtney?
See if I can paste it in the chat.
DB got me things. Okay, cool. There you go. Where can I read them?
Does that work? Is that actually a link or is it just text?
It looks like it's just, oops. I don't know, actually. I can't tell in StreamYard because StreamYard's weird.
Can they just copy paste it? That was just some of the
selected. It's a link. You're good. It's a link.
Okay, good.
You're good. Yep.
So that has the emergency motion to modify the safekeeping that was filed April 5th. It has the state's response to that filing, filed, I think, April 14th. It has a whole bunch of graphics that I made. It has criminality's transcript from the safekeeping hearing on June 15th. That's in 2 parts. It has the subpoena Dookie Teekum.
Subpoena Dukas Tecum.
And anything else we've kind of gone over, we can add to it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Court. Do you have more infographics or more?
So the questions the questions I wanted to know were, when and why was he put on suicide watch? Because there's conflicting statements about that. When and how did law enforcement and Nick get tipped off in information that these companions had written down statements and confessions and incriminating things from Rick, who they're not supposed to be talking to. And yeah, just the confusion and lies about when he received the legal paperwork that Nick tried to present as what precipitated his mental spiral.
The discrepancies and lies in all the legal paperwork. Predominantly Nick McClelland's, right? like the motions?
Yeah, I mean, that I can find. Like, I can admit, sometimes the defense's filings, I mean, I'll be fair. I've never found lies in them per se, or none that have been proven lies. Then again, they're not the ones that hold the information. They're not the ones who own the discovery and the information that they're getting. I've never found flat out lies. There might be things that was like, okay, well, maybe that wasn't necessary. Maybe this was just some colorful language or some theatrics or things to get people talking that they did in a clever way in this filing, which made it not applicable to the gag order. Like, I'll admit that. I've seen some of that stuff before.
Yeah.
I see it in Nick's filings as well. I also see really, really big problematic lies in a lot of Nick's filings. And maybe it's his fault and maybe it's not. Regardless, they exist.
Yeah. Oh, I have another one. Can I add to this list of questions? The 24-hour video surveillance of Rick, did that begin day one that he arrived?
Good one. I was thinking about that earlier. No. So the incel,
Incel.
Incel.
the camera that's in his cell, the camera that's in A107 was absolutely there on day one recording him. But hold on, I think it might be in that drive file. I think I put something in there. Maybe, let's see.
Click and clack.
I sent it to you earlier. I know I did.
Sorry, what did you send?
Because I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I know I sent it to you earlier.
Let me pull it up. Okay. Then I probably have it.
It was the one where they said, oh,
okay. You said
it was about him being recorded outside of his cell. Rosie asked this question. He didn't like is this just like in my head? I swear I sent it to you.
No, we did. Well, I know we talked about it. I don't know. You may have sent it to me and I was probably driving, but the other thing, well, okay.
Yeah, there was a hearing and there's a transcript somewhere where Rosie asked when he started being recorded outside of his cell.
Yeah.
It wasn't for a while. So in the first few months that he was there, he had the camera inside of his cell, but whenever he left his cell for any reason, a guard wanted to take him out of his cell, or he was entitled to be out of his cell, like to shower, rec time, whatever hell they wanted to take him to without anybody knowing or without it being videoed. But for the first couple of months or so, he was not recorded whenever he left his cell.
And so if you just the question that
like a problem.
Susie just put in here, we're gonna probably need to start wrapping up a little bit somewhat, but this is important and we're gonna probably finish with this because we have like a little what's it called, a little like call to action ask of everybody who's here. The only other thing I wanted to just mention is that at one point, Courtney, you in your notes, and we talked a little bit about it before, you noted that in March 2023, it was apparently discussed, Walla and Rick had a conversation about whether or not an ISP, psychologist, psych person, would
an expert as a psychology expert for Indiana State Police.
a psychology expert for Indiana State Police would come and evaluate, assess risk in March 2023 for some reason. And Walla and Rick decided that he didn't like that idea. It probably wasn't a good idea, and Walla agreed with him, right? Oh, here it is. Psych expert for ISP. Walla thinks that this suggestion was shot down, or not suggestion, this option was shut down. And then you wrote a name that we have to look into. Walla did ask for Rick's consent for this, but she met him make that decision, and he said no. What is an
there was also a mention about like a pilot program, or like they're rolling it out to 40 different places. It was very confusing. I didn't take really good notes on that part. It wasn't resonating at the time. Sometimes I couldn't hear really clearly. But yeah, it seems like
program.
I don't know.
And you're bringing this to the only pre-trial non-convicted inmate, and like they're up to they're always fucking up to something, you know? God, okay. Anyway, these are all things that we need to circle back to. But before we go, I want to share our okay.
What? I'm like,
it's ASMR. It's nice. I like it.
I don't usually get my nails done. I got them done before I went to the hearings, and so I'm like, that like that GIF of Peter Griffin, and he's like, he's secretary, and he's like this with like these like really long nails. That's me. I'm like,
oh my God, she's like, I'm feeling it. I would love it. Okay, I think I can just share.
Well, the good news is the attorneys did file a motion for transcripts from everything that went down at the hearings, plus a transcript for the one from the November 2022 hearing. So that'll probably just be given to them. I doubt it'll be put on the case file, but I know Teresa with Criminality is, she has like a little fundraiser, like a GoFundMe or something going on right now to raise money to buy all of the transcripts. And they're expensive. They're really expensive. So go to Criminality's YouTube channel. She probably has a link there somewhere for people to donate.
Why would they be requesting the November 2022 transcripts? I don't know why, but I like it. Okay, let me share that.
Yeah, that one transcript that we got was like a bunch of us pulled together to get it, but it was like what, about $400 or $500 for just the motion to dismiss transcript?
I believe it was about
like $5 a page or something crazy, or $1 a page. I forget what it was. It was expensive.
Okay. Why? Oh, permissions. Okay.
Sleepy. I think she's an extorter.
Yeah, actually. Hey, Courtney, can you actually? You know what? I'm just gonna put this here.
What are you putting up there?
This is a link to. This is public. I just put it in the chat. It is our timeline. Yes, and this has also been tweeted a whole bunch, and it's been shared everywhere. It's also in the drive that is public that I will share again and again and again after this. Okay, this is how we're going to do it. I'm just going to.
How do you want people to send you? I think you can do something on there. You can do like suggestions or comments. I don't know. You don't want to make it editable for everybody because they'll fuck it up and put pictures of balls all over it.
Yeah, we're gonna get like a lot of dick pics and stuff. So I figured if anyone wants to help, just request access and I'll just give you access. That's all. The only thing with that is that like I'll know who you are. But
if you catch something in there that is missing or needs to be corrected, or we've learned new information and you're recognizing like, oh, that's not right.
yeah, and this
just
will probably make
send a
more
smoke
sense
signal to
sometimes.
Angela somehow on Twitter or in this video
Yeah,
chat
send me
or this video
right now.
comments or something.
So this is the last thing I want everyone to see. And Sleuthy used this question a little bit ago, and so we're going to end on it.
Doug
Can everyone
Carter,
see this?
the killer can be between the ages of 18 to 70 and might appear younger or older.
Pretty much. Pretty fucking much. So this is our timeline. Can everyone kind of see it? I mean, if it's too small, then let's see. I don't know if I can make it bigger. But so what we're basically, how do I want to say this? With the motions that have been filed by the state, with the transcripts from the various hearings, with the attending of the most recent hearings, and the filings by the defense, right? With all of those put together, we are trying to kind of compile a timeline, more or less, to give us a better idea of what the fuck has been going on within the walls of Westville Correctional Facility. There's a lot of discrepancies, obviously. So we have a little section at the end that we've not really added much to, but we have this suicide watch issue. Like, on one hand, Nick McClellan says that he was placed on, I think we figured that out. He was taken off and put back on, but like, why? So my theory,
it seems they assigned companions to him when he was not
right,
on suicide
like
watch.
immediately.
Like
Right.
they used off-label suicide companions.
Yeah, and their sole purpose is to observe someone who is suicidal. So why are we utilizing suicide companions if someone's not on suicide watch? I digress again. But I suspect, and this is totally like speculation, don't come for me, but based on everything that we've seen, and I think you agree with me, Courtney, the fact that on February 1st, or on or around February 1st, 2022, the defense has been working to secure a bed for Richard Allen at the Cass County Jail.
2023, but yeah.
Sorry, 2023. Thank you.
Yeah, February, for sure.
At the Cass County Jail. McClelland, the prosecutor, was in agreement with that move at the time. This is in February 2023.
Yeah.
Shortly before March 24th, 2023, so a month and a half, 2 months later, the defense is notified that the Carroll County Sheriff has declined their request to move Rick Allen to Cass County Jail, despite no objection from the Cass County Sheriff or from Prosecutor McClellan, meaning the sole objector was the sheriff's office, right? Which
I'm going to go with Jerry Holman again. Even though he's technically not the sheriff's office, that's all in.
I suspect, though, like when they're talking about Carroll County Sheriff's Office, I kind of think of Unified Command Task Force.
Yes.
Is what I think.
Absolutely. That's what I meant.
But technically and legally, Sheriff Liggett is the one who the buck stops with him. So whoever was kind of driving that decision,
he's the one who gives the official answer. Yeah.
Okay. Well, DB is going to figure out how y'all can get access. So look at the chat because he's going to help you because I don't know how. But so they're like, nope, not going to happen. Sorry. So for 2 months, they've been basically been waiting for an answer from the sheriff, the sheriff about whether they can move Rick into the bed that they had already acquired and secured for him in Cass County. Then on March 24th, 2023, defense counsel meets with Rick and they provide him optimistic news. All of this is from filings, by the way. So it's not like our like spin. These are all like verbatim taken from filings. So the defense provides optimistic news about the case. Rick was, quote, polite, inquisitive about the information, and thankful. Defense notes that they noticed his deteriorating physical condition has been observed by counsel dating back to the beginning of the new year. So January 1st of that year, which is probably around the time they first started visiting him, they could see his physical deterioration, which makes sense.
Which is expected. I mean, you're going to see
He's in hell.
He's
Right.
in hell. You're
Yeah.
not going to see, he's
Right.
not going to just look healthy and fit and happy and glowing. It's to be expected a little bit. But he was like mentally, his capacities were there.
Right. So that was the 24th. And they leave nearly 1,000 pages of police reports and other discovery for Allen. And the way that this works in DOC is you leave it, the attorneys, they can't just give it to him because of their,
Synthetic marijuana paper.
They don't want you to be like, eating your synthetically laced whatever paper to get high. So, which is another reason that it's problematic that a pretrial defendant is being housed in a facility where the policies do not allow for attorney-client privilege. Anyway.
At Cass County, they just flip through it and make sure there's no paper clips or staples in it and then hand it over.
Perfect. Soon after March 24th, 2023, it says that investigators were made. This cuts off for me. Investigators were made aware.
You got it.
Yeah, go ahead, Yellow. You can read it. I can't see it.
Investigators were made aware by the warden of Westville that Richard M. Allen began to act strangely. Again, this is a stark contrast to everything else I have. This acting strangely. We got a lot of different dates for that.
And why is the warden, shortly after March 24th, why is the warden notifying?
It's a great question, because he didn't have day-to-day interaction with him. So,
but he does have direct and seemingly recurrent, relatively frequent interaction and communication with the Unified Command Task Force.
He sure does.
So,
is that seriously a conspiracy theory? That the warden of a prison our wardens of maximum security prisons typically like the most. This guy's already been sued like 80 times.
Yeah, and I don't even know that
once
that's
he actually had to pay up for abusing state-owned property.
So maybe it's not the warden himself then. Warden is a spokesperson. So who knows if it was like Galapoo himself, but regardless, somebody alerts investigators that Rick is acting strangely. Would that be like medical information that they're sharing? I mean, behavioral information, I guess, is not medical information, but like, what does that mean? Anyway.
I'm just picturing this guy calling up Tony Liggett or Holman being like, Richard Allen is acting strangely.
Yeah, I want to know what
fucking mean.
I don't know.
They needed to come up with some script for why they put him back on suicide watch on April 1st.
Well, so on April 1st, so the defense meets with him the 24th. They leave 1,000 pages for him. On April 1st, which is 29:30, a week later, Richard is placed back on suicide watch. Per the warden, which we just learned of this at the hearing, that he was put back on suicide watch on April 1st. Hey, DB.
Galapoo gave it 20. We got
What?
Go ahead. Do you want to try?
I didn't understand a word.
I know.
Is he okay? Somebody check on him.
Well, he was really excited, but I think we were all talking at once, so I didn't exactly hear what you said, Dee. But if you want to come back and try again, we will not hold it against you. Sorry, Courtney. What was you?
Well, I would say the warden also says we replaced companions with guards as soon as he started acting strangely. Right. He also gives a date for that, which is weeks later, then he should have alerted law enforcement that he was
Right.
acting
We'll get to
strange.
that,
Like,
though. You're
just
jumping ahead of me.
everything is just a hodgepodge.
Right. None of it's consistent. So
Right.
the first, apparently he's put back on suicide watch, which would suggest that his behavior has been, something. There's a reason for it. April 3rd, defense documents have still not been provided to Alan. So we're over a week out from when the defense left them for him. Oh no, here we go again,
There we
Courtney.
go.
Camera game. Phone call to Kathy. Okay, so the 3rd of April, he's on suicide watch on the 1st. The 3rd of April is apparently when he makes this incriminating phone call to his wife, where she disconnects the call, and we speculate probably immediately fucking called his attorneys and was like, "What the fuck is going on with my husband? He sounds psychotic." But that's just me speculating. I don't know that that's what happened. The 4th
Sounds
is the
right.
day after the phone call. His attorneys called to us to meet with him, and that's when they that picture of him with like the dirty shirt where he looks like totally out of it, really frail. That's where all of
Where
those
he
are from.
just came in from rec, and we later learned that his attending doctor is like, he is not well.
Right. And they're like, "Oh, he was just outside playing hoops, man.
Just playing
He was
in the
just
mud.
he was just balling.
He's just being a boy. Yeah.
He's just balling. That's what he looks. That's what one looks like after they've been balling all day. Not true at all. Then the 5th, they meet with him on the 4th. The 5th is when they file their prisoner of war motion, the emergency request to modify his safekeeping. They quote, observe a steep decline in his demeanor, his ability to communicate, his ability to comprehend and assist in his defense, psychotic symptoms, schizophrenic and delusional, suffering from memory loss, and demonstrating an overall inability to communicate rationally with counsel and family members. So from the 24th of March to the 4th, when they go to visit him, a week and a bit, he goes from being pleasant, inquisitive, and assisting his defense, positive, all of those things, polite, to incoherent, psychotic, schizophrenic, and unable to even communicate. Okay. The 6th, the day after this motion was filed that caused all of that, I mean, we were like, what the fuck? Because from the time the PCA was unsealed until here, this emergency filing, like, public, no idea what was going on. We just assumed it was like business as usual, getting ready for, the case, and no idea, what was going on. And so this was like newsworthy, I would say, at the time. The 6th, the prosecutor meets, and so Yellow, there, you weren't sure about this, so we need to like double check, but the prosecution meets with the warden of Westville, John Gallipoo, quote, and the allegations in the motion by the defense are false. I think that he went in person to Westville to meet with the warden, but we need to double check that. Right?
Yeah. The only thing the documents say is the state met with the warden on April 6th.
Okay. The state.
I don't know who the state is.
Interested to know who the state is. I wonder
I
if
also don't know if it
are-
was an in-person meeting or a phone call. They did get an affidavit from him, though. There is an affidavit in one of those filings.
I feel like they do clarify in the June hearing, like they did go and meet somebody with the state, went and met with them.
Yeah, you probably just didn't assume that. You probably saw it somewhere. We'll have to look for it.
They're in what's the fucking word?
Cahoots?
Well, yeah, they're definitely in cahoots big time.
Indiana?
Cahoots.
Big time.
No, they're in crisis control. What is it when you're trying to like they're in like damage control, right? This is damage control. So
they got their oh shit handles.
Yes, 100%. So Nick is like, all of the allegations in the motion by the defense are false, which we know
all of them.
Which is not true. If anything, they were like underselling how bad it was. The 11th of April, an inmate Now, this is another thing I need to check. I don't know if this is this like also Baston or another inmate, but I'm positive that on April, it says somewhere that on April 11th, an inmate pens a letter to the defense and Judge Gull alleging, quote, corrupt officers and ranking officers are taunting Rick, yelling kid killer, saying you have a visit from your family, your phone's ringing, which is just cruel, and threatening to kill him and telling him to kill himself. That's the 11th. The 12th is when, per Dr. Walla, Rick is self-harming, right? He's running from one side of his cell to the other and banging his head into the concrete wall of his cell on purpose, self-harm. And that is when they have to administer emergency, we would call it like a chemical restraint. They have to inject him with some kind of medication to calm him down, like immediately. That's the 12th. The 13th, Wallace says, quote, that's when she uses the word grave. So in April, she's noting grave disability. This is when he's consuming feces, considering involuntary medication. This is Wallace saying she's considering it. And then a hearing about involuntary medication is scheduled for the next day. The 14th, Rick Allen is seen by 2 DOC psychiatrists and 1 psychologist, who is Walla, to assess the appropriateness of his setting and to assess whether or not involuntary medication is needed. Per Dr. Walla's notes, emergency involuntary medication is ordered at that hearing. There's no ambiguity about that. They 100% decided at that hearing that is totally hush-hush, that like will probably never see the light of day because of all the lawyers protecting that hearing. But they 100% came to the decision to involuntarily medicate Rick. Apparently, they determined also that his setting was appropriate. Those two things kind of fly in the face of one another, but they kept him there. So I would,
Why?
I don't know.
Why did they not want to get him as far away from them as possible? Like, why did anybody want that liability on their plate?
Right.
You could have sent him anywhere. You could have sent him to Wabash. You could have sent him to like 4 or 5 different DOC facilities with robust mental health facilities.
And it's not even like DOC wasn't equipped. Like, Wabash is where severely, persistently mentally ill inmates go because they have they're equipped to they're the most equipped to deal with and to support that. On the same day as the hearing, Judge Gull throws the hot potato back to DOC. She issues the not my problem order, is what I call it, where basically she says, whatever Diener said is fine. I'm not getting involved. So if DOC decides they want to move him, they can move him. If DOC decides they want to keep him, they can keep him. It's interesting to me. It's very fucking interesting that Judge Gull issues the not my problem order, saying DOC can evaluate and make that determination on their own. The same fucking day the DOC is evaluating and making that determination on their own.
Funny.
Is there more bullshit? Like, would that be an ex parte communication if she's being fed and communicating with DOC without his attorneys being fucking?
I'd bet my life on it.
Well, that fucking happened, but like,
yeah,
how inappropriate is it legally is my question, because I don't know, because all of this is pretty fucking.
It's not just inappropriate. I mean, it's a clear violation of judicial 100%. Guidelines and discipline. Yeah.
And I don't think that Judge Gull would have issued an order leaving it up to DOC if she had not already been informed or under some kind of belief or assumption that DOC had it fucking handled, right? And DOC probably felt like they had it fucking handled after their hearing, and they made all of these decisions about what to do with the defendant. Like, I don't know. So the judge, by the way, so she hasn't responded to the defense's emergency motion She just files, like, she doesn't address any of the claims or assertions.
That filing was so weird. It was just, it wasn't a grant or a deny, or it wasn't a response to their
It was
motion
a
at all.
reaffirmation. She was
It
saying,
was just like,
per my
I got-
previous
it was just like,
email.
I was just thinking about this and wanted to put it on the record. It made
Right.
no sense.
It was a per my previous email. It was a C Judge Diener's bloodlust order,
Yeah.
is what it was. Which is just really, really tragic, because Judge Gohl at that moment. Now, also, sorry, I'm all over the place. There was
Well, Travis asks, why would it be a violation under judicial guideline for a judge to see if a court's order is being complied with? Well, I'm going to say you're the expert
I don't know,
on here,
Travis.
and if,
Yeah, I have no
if
idea.
that was the situation, it's not a violation.
But court
I
order.
just don't think that was the situation.
Why would it be a violation for a judge to see if a court's order is being complied with? No, I totally 100%, Travis. Like, are y'all? But I guess what being complied with, I don't know. It feels all very fishy to me, because none of this is like status quo, right? You know, all of this is exceptional. So it doesn't feel like we call that a punt. That's pretty much what it was, Travis. I feel like she just totally punted this back and didn't want to deal with it. But that's weird, because at the hearing last week, Courtney, didn't Judge Gohl look McClellan and Rosie in the fucking face and say, do I even have the authority to make this call? Do I, as the judge, have the authority to vacate a safekeeping order? Or is that something DOC has to do? She literally asked them that. If she didn't know, why did she assume the authority and reaffirm the safekeeping order a year and a half earlier? Am I tripping?
I think I blacked out because you're saying that, and I'm like, that does sound familiar, but why didn't I like throw up on the floor?
It was just like a blip on your notes.
Like a real innocuous comment.
Well, it was she stopped.
I think she was asking, maybe it was like if she could keep the safekeeping order in effect, but move into a county, like have it transferred to a county jail.
Your notes were super clear and explicit. She interrupted them and said, is this something that I'm going to pull it up in a minute. She literally asked basically, like, do I have the judicial authority to make this call even? Like, am I even the right person to do it? So if
Lady, you're the one who gets to decide if you're going to recuse yourself or not. Like, I'm pretty sure you can do anything you literally want.
Well, if she can or can't, she should have probably definitively known back when she decided that she did have the authority to do it, because she
to uphold it. Yeah,
she fucking
had the authority
did it
to
a year and a
uphold
half
it
earlier, whether she had the authority or not. So now all of a sudden she wants to make sure that she's like staying within the fucking confines of her judicial authority a year and a half after she already decided. I'm sorry, fuck that. That's
pretty weird.
Oh, that's just weird. Back to my timeline, because I'm getting really pissed. Okay. Which is why she's just like fucking mailing it in for the first year. This is my problem with Judge Gohl. I don't think she's an evil monster. I think she's lazy. And I think she's a cop. Period. She's a fucking cop. She's a cop's judge. So she's going to do what's helpful and convenient and the status quo for the fucking cops. So like, it's like she just didn't care enough, I guess. I don't know. I got issues with Gohl. We're gonna go fast because you have to go. So the state requests their subpoena dookie teekums, which we went through earlier. He makes several contradictory assertions. For example, he knew about why did the prosecutor know about a closed door hearing about his defendant's private medical fucking health determination?
That's the biggest call out right there. That's the biggest call out, is how did that information get into Nick's filing?
Why is he putting it in a fucking filing in the first place? Exactly. And why is he the one?
Why does he have that info to put in the filing in the first place? Who is
And what
telling
makes
him
it?
that
Why is he the
psychologists and
person?
psychiatrists at DOC are having a meeting about
Right.
his mental health?
Why the fuck is he the person to make this argument? You don't know what was decided. You shouldn't know what was decided in that hearing. And
Why
even
aren't
if
they
you
telling
do,
his attorneys?
right? No, he's telling the judge. He's telling the mom. He's telling his mom.
Whoever told it to Nick, why aren't they telling this man's counsel what the decisions were and what the meeting was about? Like, they're
I
the
don't know,
only
maybe
ones
they-
that have a right to know.
Right. Maybe they did tell the defense counsel.
And
But
they even had to make their own filings for continued disclosure of his mental health record. Even his own defense had
That's
to
a good
file
point.
special paperwork to get access to his mental health records.
right. From that meeting, the meeting that they won't even talk about in a pretrial evidentiary hearing where it's directly relevant with 3 lawyers protecting it, in that hearing, from that meeting, it was determined that Richard Allen did not need involuntary medication, wrong, and that he did not need to be moved to another facility. I don't fucking believe you. I don't fucking believe that. How the fuck do you
How
know?
can you believe any of them?
Richard, since that meeting, so when was this filed? The 20th? Since
Yeah.
that meeting, Richard Allen has begun to eat again and begun to sleep again. His behavior has begun to return to what it was prior to making these admissions on the 3rd. Why don't we just
fucking
check let's roll the tape back, Courtney, because
Fucking
apparently he was gravely disabled. Despite
And it was between the time that motion was filed and 2 months later that he lost 40 pounds in 2 months. So I don't think he was eating and sleeping again.
This is disgusting. This is disgusting.
It was actually after that filing that the worst of it happened. That it wasn't until 2 months after that filing that he said he's back to normal, he's A-okay, he's fine, he's eating, sleeping, improving every day. It wasn't until 2 months after that filing that he started showing physiological symptoms like stuttering and trembling and eyes bulging.
So he's not even remotely close to the worst yet. Like Rick has not even deteriorated.
So far, when this was filed, so far he's smeared himself in feces. Or maybe that hadn't even happened yet.
Well, the other thing, by the way.
And it just happened. And he's also running and smashing his face and head into the concrete.
That worries me too. Okay, you have somebody who's taking a running start into a concrete wall and banging their head. Did you get him a fucking CAT scan? Did you get him a fucking CAT scan or check him for fucking concussion, like a concussion?
Why
or a
is
TBI?
somebody on suicide watch in a concrete cell?
Why is somebody on suicide watch? Why is somebody on suicide watch who has 24/7 companions supposed to keep him safe? Why is he allowed to take a running start and bang his head into the wall? What are they doing?
Wait, do you know what Wabash has? And do you know what Cass County has? Padded rooms.
Yeah.
Padded rooms for suicide watch. Like jiu-jitsu mats covering all the walls and floor. For that fucking reason. For that exact fucking reason.
I want to pin Travis's.
Because concrete can be a weapon if somebody wants to die bad enough.
Well, clearly. Because okay, so where's Travis? Here he is.
Do we know who the MD was that ordered the prescriptions? Yes, that would have been Dr. Monica Walla.
No, Courtney, because a psychologist can't prescribe medication.
Oh yeah.
So she can make a recommendation, but like there's another fucking player involved here somewhere.
So that would be Dr. Martin.
Dr. who?
Martin.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a man or a woman. Dr. Martin is her superior. And
okay,
they technically work for Centurion Health Group. They don't technically work for the state of Indiana.
Okay. So I'm assuming Gull was completely off base with that. The attorney who handled the OA for the court, I'm sure, pointed out we should probably abandon this not an ethical attorney duty to raise it. Oh, I need context. I'm sorry. I didn't go back far enough. cases. Recall.
And I don't get the
Judge Gold.
impression that Dr. Martin is, I mean, I might be wrong. I don't get the impression that Dr. Martin, like the doctor, is there on site. Like, that's not like a in-house MD. I got the impression she is over this entire team of lead psychologists at all the different facilities.
Yeah, I wonder who the prescriber is for Westville.
You know, like if you go
Anyway.
to a med spa, you have to like do like a video consultation with somebody to.
Yeah. Travis says, recall that Judge Gull was trying to say that Brad and filing a notice of claim for mistreatment. Right. So the tort. Thank you. This is not on here, Travis, and it's important. And people gave Brad a lot of shit for filing this, but they didn't know what he knew, that what we now know at the time, which is, yeah, Rick has been plenty fucking injured at this place and probably hasn't. Anyway, mistreatment of Rick and bringing the conflict after she had counsel. That notice never brought. Sorry, I lost it. Counsel never brought up again. Thank you, Travis. And she was completely off base with that. Yeah. You mean giving them shit about filing the notice? Yeah. Saying they were in conflict. The attorney who handled the OA pointed that out. We should probably, yeah. Yes, Travis. And they did raise that point very, like, strenuously in the OA. They actually, I think I was just reading it earlier. There's like a subsection just about the fact that Judge Gull gave Rosie shit for doing that, saying it was a conflict and that was inappropriate. When, like, who the fuck else is gonna do it? Like, that's who does it for you.
Nobody.
Your fucking defense attorney is the person who would do that. Like, this is all so unprecedented that for her to, so she's taking a very unusual, exceptional, unprecedented series of circumstances and continuously issuing blanket, like, boilerplate orders and motions as if, like, she's not watching the same fucking movie that we're watching. Like, where are you, lady? What are you doing? What have you been doing? Because none of this feels appropriate. There was one more thing Travis said I want to pull up. Do we know? Yes, Courtney answered that one. I think if we missed any, Travis, let me know. You motherfucker. Scott, I agree with you. Not my problem is code for I know Diener violated Rick's constitutional rights. I would love a Diener deposition. What about you?
See.
I would love that. We're almost done, Courtney. If you have to go, you can go. Obviously, if you have to go, you can go. Like, you need my permission. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go then. I got stuff to do.
Okay. I love you. Bye.
Right.
Just send.
I love y'all. Thank y'all.
You already sent the link, so okay.
Yes.
So the 20th is when Nick files his request for records and lies and says that he didn't need involuntary medication when clearly that's not true. We don't know why he knew that. The 22nd, Rick finally receives nearly 1,000 pages of paperwork. It was left a month earlier. Can't see. Despite Nick implying that it was received prior to 4/3, prior to the confessions to his wife. Yeah, he implies that the discovery that Rick saw, like, prompted him to confess or some fucking bullshit. It's a very cute theory. Just like his theory about Rick finding God and deciding, you know how many people Coast is probably trying to give people Bibles? Like, for them to, okay, focus. So the 23rd, oh wait, sorry. Per Warden's testimony, we're still on the 22nd, at the June 15th safekeeping hearing. When asked what flipped the switch with Rick's behavior and when did he start acting strange, the warden answers, we switched from suicide companions to guards the day after he received his legal paperwork, which would suggest the 23rd of April. All right. And Courtney already put that on here because she's way ahead. Okay. sorry, I got a little bit frantic there. But what Courtney and Sleuthy and DB and All Eyes and me and everybody are trying to basically do is there's a lot of questions that I think remain. And I would really like to figure out what the fuck occurred between March 24th, 2023, when Rick's attorneys met with him and he was doing well, even though his physical condition had deteriorated. He was pleasant and polite and lucid and participating in his defense and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's the 24th. A week later, he's put back on suicide watch. So what the fuck occurred? And maybe the answer is nothing. Maybe the answer is that, you know, we all have an allostatic load, a certain amount of stress and trauma and pressure that our brains, our psyche can withstand. And it's very possible that something just happened in his brain that caused him, come back if you're here, that caused this deterioration, right? So perhaps that's the answer, that he had just withstood all that he could withstand. Something happened internally in his brain and he slipped into psychosis. That happens. But an equally likely scenario, in my opinion, is that it's just really hard for me to believe that somebody can go from relatively well psychologically to completely psychotic, self-injurious, suicidal, and non-verbal in a matter of days. I struggle to identify a scenario in which that just occurs organically without some kind of trigger or some kind of instigator. And I don't know what the answer is, but what I would really like to know is what the fuck they do Rick between March 24th, when he got 1,000 pages of discovery, and April 1st, when they decided to put him back on suicide watch. What the fuck happened? So if I'm Rick's defense attorney, which I'm not, thank God, because I'd be in fucking jail and prison by now, probably. If I'm Rick's legal counsel, I would probably really want to know. I'd be reviewing the fucking video. I'd be reviewing the fucking audio. I'd be reviewing the logs, which I'm sure they've already done because we know that they have video of Rick engaging in self-harm and psychotic behavior and that it's devastating and sad because they outlined it in emotion when they were trying to get him moved months ago. So what could have possibly occurred to cause such a rapid and significant deterioration in someone who was feeling positive about his case days earlier? And I mean, I don't know. I'm trying not to go down like a super nefarious road with that question. Wallace said they were all telling him to self-harm. And we know that that is true because 600 hours worth of video, probably the guy on the hearing said he was reviewing it. And that's Harshman, right? The person that reviews, or Hart something, the person that reviews all of the footage, apparently. So I mean, I don't know. I'm curious what other people who know more about this than I do. I know a little bit about what trauma can do to a person's brain and psyche and physical body. We don't often see it happen this quickly. And maybe the defense was you know, maybe Rick was compensating really well on the day that they went to visit him, and maybe he appeared much better than he was. So maybe it wasn't such a drastic decline. Maybe it just seemed like it to them. But why is Rick trying to kill him, run his head into his cell wall days after getting really good news from his lawyers? He hadn't gotten his discovery yet. The prison, presumably, was still making copies of all of his discovery. Did we hear that? DOC is responsible for copying all of the legal mail, all of the regular mail, all of the whatever comes in those doors. There's a team, apparently, I don't know, a team of people, an administrative team, or I don't know who is responsible for doing it. Oh, look at chat. What chat? Oh God. Oh, huh. Thank you, sir. I agree with this. They need to go through every second of that week. Maybe they already have, but I would not want a moment to be unaccounted for. I mean, it'd probably be helpful if they were getting fucking paid. They could, you know, have more manpower to do this. But what was I doing? Oh, I got it. Okay. I don't know if I can share this right now because I have to restart my thing, but I'm gonna read it. DB, can you give me some context as to, just so I can relay that? Like, obviously, I see the links. Is this just a summary, or whose voice am I reading right now as I read this? If that makes sense. It is Detective Harshman. This is Detective Harshman saying this? Okay. Or no? Yes. Okay. This is Detective Harshman. Okay. Got it. It says, and I will share this, quote, "It's true that the defense dropped off paperwork for the defendant to review, and the facility did hang on to the paperwork until they heard from the defense attorneys as to how the paperwork should be handled. The prosecutor fails to mention that how and when Richard Allen does literally anything is up to the warden and prison staff, that representatives from the facility attempted to contact defense counsel for several days in a row to determine if the paperwork should be given to the defendant in his cell or if the defendant should be brought to a different location to review the paperwork. Who fucking cares? Sorry. Again, the defense attorneys were clear when dropping it off that Richard Allen just needed to access his paperwork. The when and how is up to the warden and to prison staff." And there's links to, yeah, I'll just share this after. So it sounds like we're splitting hairs about how to get the defendant so they admit in this that because they claim they didn't know the best fucking delivery system for the defendant, that the best option was to fucking hold on to it and not give it to him at all. Cool. Except that he has a fucking constitutional right. I need to stop. He has a constitutional right to his discovery. He's blaming the defense for not being responsive. Right. So let me ask you, who is spoon feeding who here? Because you really mean to tell me that the Department of Corrections can't figure out how the fuck to get a defendant his paperwork because the attorneys won't call them back? You don't know how to handle it? They do what they want anyway. So, like, that's the most disingenuous argument I've ever heard. I hadn't seen that before. Thank you, DB, in All Eyes. Thank you, All Eyes. The finder of all the things. Nick tried to blame the defense for not telling the warden how to do it. Spoon feeding. Fucking spoon feeding. Right. Yeah. That's where I'm going to leave it for this evening. I am going to share, or DB is going to help me figure out how to get this, share this in a way that makes it like collaborative where people can like contribute to it. Because the other thing that is probably worth doing is in that document dump from like June 2023, where Gull's clerk like just threw a bunch of scanned papers without titles or organization into the public realm. There's a lot in those documents, like the 3 different subpoenas that Nick submitted, and like there's a lot of contradictory information. There's a lot of dates in there that we found that we hadn't seen before. So I just feel like a lot of this probably warrants some revisiting and some clarification. And if anyone's looking for a fun project, you can help us try and fill in some of these gaps. And maybe there's nothing to fill in, but that's kind of like my call to action is like, how can we figure out or aid? I don't want to say aid the defense because I'll get in trouble for even suggesting that. But like, I'm sorry, that was not Harshman that I read. How do we figure out what happened inside the walls of DOC? Because obviously nobody was there with him, but it was apparently recorded. And I think maybe like some public pressure is warranted, you know? Thank God that Courtney went to the hearings. I'm very grateful for her and her meticulous note-taking, because if it weren't for her, I would have no idea about any of this. So it just kind of goes to show, you know, collectively, I feel like we can do a lot more than the state would want us to believe. So, not to sound like too insurrection-y, but I feel like it's probably like time to demand some answers. Sleuthy's going to help me fill it in. I have to pin my own comments, guys. Ridiculous. Absurd. The Indiana Department of Correction is not really in the business of making sure you have your discovery. It's why they transfer them back to a jail when you go back to trial or something. Right. It's almost like a pretrial defendant has no business being in the Department of Correction. Scott, I wish that this were true. I think that would be a far more comforting scenario, but the defense actually did put in a motion, I want to say back in like February or March, that they actually were the ones to share that detail because they were had to review the footage of it. So we know that they at least have reviewed footage from that week. Thank you, Rochelle. So sweet. But you're lost as usual. I'm sorry, Travis. Like, as soon as Courtney leaves, I just I rage. So Sleuthie's gonna help fill it in. Courtney did an amazing job. She did an amazing job. She's amazing. How do they handle paperwork at the appellate level? Peggy, good question. So you mean like if an inmate prisoner is filing an appeal in their case? I don't know. That's a good question. It would be very nice to get some federal eyes on Delphi. Hi, Mama. It's up to the offender to advocate themselves. It's better on your direct appeal in some states, but if you're past that, you're probably fucked. You're on your own. Yeah. New hashtag, y'all. We got a new hashtag to push. Okay, I'm gonna end the live now because I don't have anything else to say. But thank you everyone for hanging out with us. Thank you, Courtney, for all your things. We're gonna share everything after. Oh, if you're not following me on Twitter or Courtney on Twitter or DB on Twitter, then do that because that's where we post the majority of like the links and the documents and the drive and everything. And mine is oh shit. BB is true. Oops. Shut up. They're not gonna do it. Fiend. Thank you, Fiend. I'm so sorry. Fiend is like the public access king. He was the only person to actually seek out and obtain Rick Allen's military records. I don't condone any of this. It's just funny. He's pretty much the first and only person tracking, keeping eyes on Rick Allen's physical movements and taking all of the necessary steps to figure out where he is and when, and checking Vine and checking Saban and all of those things. So definitely follow Fiend too. I'm gonna put, so we got Corn Dog Court. Oops. Corn Dog Court. And we got Fiend_X. Is that it? There's a whole bunch of other people that are awesome that everyone should. I fucked that up. You guys can figure it out. I think that if criminality has already started like a GoFundMe, that should be the centralized place. And yes, everybody should donate to whatever criminality Teresa has set up for transcripts. She is the transcript muse. So yes, is the answer. Said who's Carroll County? I know somebody's Carroll County. Would not recommend. Would do it again. Would not recommend. Definitely send Teresa money for transcripts. It's awesome. Yes. So the attorneys filed a couple different motions today. For transcripts was one of them. So they requested all of the hearing transcripts from the past week, and they requested the transcript from the November 22nd, 2022 hearing, which was like the first public hearing for Rick, which was when they argued to unseal the probable cause affidavit. They requested their bail hearing and something else. Yeah, I mean it will bring the cost down, but it's still going to be like over $1,000 to get all of them. So definitely donate. I'm at the part where, oops, Nick says he put Rick in solitary due to him being in danger. Yes. I love you, Heavy Metal Rehab. Thank you for being here. You're amazing. And I agree with that statement. Okay, I'm going to bed. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. And that's all.